A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are. Of course, I'm glad that you are tuned in and you are watching Afrique 24-hour TV. Welcome. Today is a special day. Today being Saturday, we are going to have a politics show, a show that brings us together as we try to look at what has been happening in the country in the political arena. So before we go straight into politics, I also have to start by updating you on some of the things that are happening across the world. Of course, at Afrique, we are connecting you with African stories from wherever you are. So if you're joining me for the first time, just ensure that you click on the subscription button and you subscribe and become a member. That is the only way that you can be able to support this program. So top of the stories, of course, it's a sad weekend as Russia has been attacked by the terrorists, and about 133 people have lost lives. This is something that is so terrible. It's something that is so sorrowful that people have lost lives through the terror attack. I know the issue of terrorism
Да, произошла трагедия. Мы здесь в Крокусе работают пожарные. Площадь возгорания очень заметная. Все остальное...
We're still on this breaking news out of Russia. That is the Crocus Hall, the music hall that is currently on fire. Russian media, the TASS organization, is reporting that the roof of this is partially collapsing as we speak. What we know is that it appears 3 gunmen, Russians are calling them terrorists, entered this concert hall, shooting on their way in, and inside the hall, killing multiple people. At least 40 people are dead, 100 are injured. That number is likely to go up. It is a massive emergency scene around this concert hall.
All right, what you just seen on your screen, that is what is happening in Russia. At least 133 people lost their lives and several people who've have been injured. So that and many other stories are also going to form part of our discussion. Of course, hosting this show today in the county 041, that is Siaya County, the county of heroes, the county of Barack Obama, and the county of James Orengo. So if you are joining me for the first time, I've just told you that you can start by subscribing to our channel. That's the only way you can support this program. Of course, I'm also having some other panelists and others who are also going to join, as we are going to have a special politics show, and we are going to discuss a lot of issues. A lot has happened in this country in the political arena, right from political intolerance that you've seen happening in the western parts of the country, whereby we've been seeing some chaos pitting the Trans Nzoia governor, the fierce Natembea, and the National Assembly Speaker Moses Masika Wetangula. Of course, we will also be able to get some time to weigh in what is happening in the politics of the western part of this country. Without forgetting the nurses and the doctors strike that has gone for a week now. We are having most patients that are really struggling to get the doctor's attention, as the Minister of Health, that is led by none other than CS Susan Rahumicha, have insisted that they're not going to pay the interns, or they're not going to implement the CBA fully. So we are going to look at those stories and many other stories, including, if you look at our topic today, we are going to look at the Handshake Chronicles. So when you look at the Handshake Chronicles, remember that handshake have taken place in this country, not today. It has always been there. So it is something that has always been taking place. So the visitors or the panelists here are going to delve and try to tell us what are the real purpose of these handshakes that we've been seeing in this country. What have they achieved, or what do the initiators of the handshake plan to achieve with their handshakes? So Before I move on, I just want to invite you to this conversation. There are so many ways you can participate in this conversation. One of them is that you can use the link that I'm going to share on the comment section, join the studio, and be part of the panelists. But if you so wish to stay without joining the studio, you can also use the comment section. Let me know your view. Let me know if you have a question or any concern. You will be part of this conversation. So I'm joined today by one and only Mzalendo. I think you know him. And today he's going to give us some very instant information on this handshake. He's also going to give us his view on the chronicles of the handshake that has been taking place in this country, maybe since independence up to the last one that we can see that is taking place between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. I'm also joined by one and only Boniface Kimanzi, straight away from some parts of Kambani. I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, say hi, and maybe give their thought as they sympathize with or as they condole with the people who've lost their lives in the Russian terror attack that hit the world yesterday. So I'll start with Mzalendo. Good evening. I don't know the time it is where you are, so maybe you can just tell us the time where you're joining from and take a minute to say something or condole with the people who perished in the Russian terror attack.
It's a sad day to the world at large because we've been dealing with these issues of terrorism, and they've really caused a lot of pain. The other day, they were in Israel, back at home, my country, Kenya. We remember the attack on the U.S. embassy in Kenya that made so many people lose their lives, and some people are maimed up to today. So this is a terrible day for the people of Russia, especially those who are attending that particular concert. They didn't have to lose their life because of some crazy human beings shooting randomly to put their point across. So my condolences goes to the family of the Russians and any other person who is not a Russian who was probably in that concert. It is a sad moment, and we really sympathize and empathize. And my prayers goes to all the family members and to those who have lost their lives. I believe that you'll find some comfort in the Lord and in some prayers. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much, Mzalendo. Indeed, it's a sad day in the world. Imagine losing 133 people. It is not an accident. These are deaths that are caused by a fellow human. It shows how inhuman some people have decided to be. And of course, the entire world needs to condemn terrorism because the terrorists don't have religion, terrorists don't have a tribe, the terrorists don't have a race. So a terror is a terror, whether he's a black terror, he's a white terror, or whether he's a Christian terror or a Muslim terror. They don't have religion. These are people who are heartless, they're people who are inhuman, and they need to be condemned. And we pray that one day the world that we live in will be a peaceful world whereby people will have to adhere to the human rights and respect the right to life that is enshrined to each and every individual. So Bonfas, karibu sana jioni ya leo. You can say hi to the viewers. Tell us where you're joining us from, and maybe you can also say a word or your view on what happened in Russia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo, for this wonderful opportunity. And I want to welcome all our viewers and our followers who are watching this political show, wherever they are. They are welcome in Africa 24 so that they can give their contributions when it comes to comments, and also you can join live studio. Yeah, personally, I think we have been here today during Dimbal Afrique. And those who have been there, they already saw us doing Dimbal Afrique. My name is Boniface Kimanzi. I've been here. and I'm joining from Nairobi, Kenya, capital city, Dagoretti, Kona, on your way to Karen. So I am happy to be here today, and I want to pass my condolences to the people of Russia, because those are innocent people who were affected, and you know that whenever those things happen, most of people suffer because they don't know when these things happen. These things happen in an impromptu reactions. They happen instantly. You don't know what happens. Then you are there enjoying, having good time with your family, and then boom, people come and they start to attack you. So I want to pass my heartfelt condolences to those people who were affected by this terrorist attack in Russia, and Vladimir Putin needs to do a lot of work, because the country is suffering, and also they need to come together between Russia and Ukraine so that they can solve the conflicts that have been taking place in those two countries. And I think a lot of lives have been lost. And in those 103 people, I saw some innocent young ones suffering. They were affected by that attack. So it is so heartless to see such a kind of things happening in the country, and we extend our heartfelt condolences to them, because they have the right to live, and everyone has the right to live, and that is one of the things that makes people to enjoy this planet Earth. So I think they need to solve issues that are taking place in those two countries, between Russia and Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. That is wonderful. That is wonderful, Boniface. Thank you. So I don't know where I'll start. There's a lot that we need to talk about. If you look at the topic, our headline, we are talking of the Handshake Chronicles. So Zalendo, maybe being a senior member here, I think you've watched several transitional governments taking place in Kenya. Some of us, maybe the first transition we saw is when Moi was handing over to President Kibaki, and when President Kibaki was handing over to Uhuru Kenyatta, and Uhuru Kenyatta handing over to the current President William Ruto. So maybe if you can just brief us, we are looking at this thing called handshake in the context of whereby after political contest, the people who hotly contested for the seat gets a way of sitting on a table and talking, having some political agreements or having some political talks whereby they agree that they are not going to oppose each other, but they are going to work towards a specific goal. So maybe you can just brief us on how Kenyan found themselves using this term handshake, and maybe in this kind of handshake, how many so far have happened before we go into details on who and where and why they happened.
I think the more, can you hear me, Leo?
I can hear you loud and clearly.
Thank you for that question. I think this is one of the questions that have not been addressed for a very long time, and many people are avoiding, especially the political class. They seem to avoid the issue of the handshake. I remember the first significant handshake that we witnessed was in 2007, when Kibaki and Raila came together to form the Grand Coalition government. This was informed by the post-election violence that took place in our country, and the international community, friends of Kenya, came together with the civil society, came together and the church came together and reconciled the two factions, and that gave birth to the Grand Coalition government, of which the Right Honorable Raila Odinga was appointed the second Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. That is a significant part of our history. Thereafter, elections have been very, very hotly contested in the Republic of Kenya, and more so in the last election and the previous one. After Mwai Kibaki, then came Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru Kenyatta could not govern the country perfectly. Remember what happened between Uhuru and Raila Odinga? They had to go for a rerun in their last election. So after the rerun, Raila did not contest. Uh, and that caused a lot of animosity among his supporters. Why he didn't contest? So many people still ask questions up to today. But he was so categorical and clear that without the reforms in the electoral system, is not going to contest. The results were going to be the same. Remember, Ruto and Uhuru were a pair in that particular election. So consequently, they went to the election and they won the election. Now, the war of words began. The country could not be governable. And in 2018, it was around March 9th, 2018, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga shook hands. I remember the significant handshake was at Harambee House, if I'm not wrong. And everybody was like, this is what we've been waiting for. At least there was calm in the nation after the handshake. Now, what developed later on after the handshake is, of course, the Jubilee Party, of which Uhuru had come into power. Felt like this is not, some members felt like this is not what the right thing that the president is doing with somebody who has been our political opponent. Remember, our elections are very, very violent, both physical and verbal. Our politicians don't actually articulate policies. They are very, very combative, as you see even in recent times. What you see on the media is just combative politics. There's no time that they have dialogue. Even if you go to the Senate, you go to Parliament, it is just combativeness. There's no solution. There's no coming together as leaders. The only time they come together is when they're discussing their salaries. But when it is a matter of me and you, they either walk out of Parliament or give some flimsy excuses that they cannot debate bills that are affecting us directly. So back to our story. So Jubilee members were disgruntled, and that's so was the faction led by William Ruto and Gachagua, the Ichungwas, the Rindinyoros, form an alliance. Yeah, so Uhuru's government now internally started becoming unstable, although the country was calm, but there was no political stability in terms of uh, services to the people. He could not constitute a cabinet for a long time, I remember. Um, that is what happened between uh, Uhuru's handshake and Raila. Then I want to take you back to the NASA brigade. The NASA brigade, again, after the handshake between Raila and Uhuru, something happened in NASA. NASA, some members in NASA like Mudavadi felt like this should not have happened, and they started breaking away from Raila Odinga, and up to today they have not reconciled. Now the the handshake between William Ruto and Raila Odinga is now going to give birth to another political force that will be disgruntled with William Ruto, and the other faction that will be not be happy with Raila Odinga. You've already started seeing Eugene Momalo and the groups forming the same formation that we had in the previous years. So our politics has been informed with that. Let me just stop there for you to come in. I will continue with those analyses as we go on.
Thank you so much, Zalendo, for taking us through the history of handshake that has happened in this country. And indeed, you'll find that in most of the cases that we are having these handshakes, there was some problems, like the person who formed the government wasn't able to have a total control, meaning the opposing individual was also controlling some masses that are making the person forming the government unable to maybe run smoothly. You've talked of the handshake between the former president Mwai Kibaki, may his soul rest in peace. You've talked of the handshake between the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, and we are currently actually there's some things you can't run away from. I know some people might say that we are preempting something that is not there, but what is happening currently, there is some good relationship between the former prime minister and the his competitor, that is the current president William Ruto. So Bonnie, a question that I just want to ask you: if you look at these handshakes that have been happening, there's something that is common. You'll find that the people who've been having this handshake, we are talking of Mwai Kibaki, we're talking of Uhuru Kenyatta, and now we are talking of William Ruto. You know, these are three different individuals, but there's somebody, Raila Odinga, it remains a constant factor, meaning it doesn't change. Yeah, the rest are variables in that case. So, what do you have to say on that? What do you have to say on that? The fact that we've had different handshakes, but there's a common factor. There is a constant in these kind of handshakes that are taking place. I just want your humble opinion, irrespective of what people say.
Thank you so much, Leo. And I want to say, when it comes to these handshakes that has been taking place for a long time, and only one party is involved. Raila Amolo Odinga is one of the politicians who has been taking place in general elections and also leading this country for a long time. But I think there is a time that he always considers himself that he needs to win and he needs to also get considered when it comes to the government. And that is where he pops in and he accepts that handshake. You know that Azimio has been one of the biggest opposition parties in Kenya. So when Raila Amolo Odinga joins this government, then definitely he kills, he makes this opposition to have no power. Because if he is the one who is driving the government to do the work, and then he joins because of his personal wants, then definitely the opposition is going to be shaken and the government will do what it wants because there's no that push. So I think William Ruto is very wise and he decided to make sure that he gets the handshake so that he can make sure that the government is doing all what it wants because there's no pressure from opposition. And William Ruto is very wise. I think he is one of the best presidents that uses his medulla because if now he has pocketed Raila Amolo Odinga and the way Raila Amolo Odinga was calling for maandamano. Personally, I was in the streets because I thought we will get that seat, but again, after maandamano, there is something that happened, and Raila Amolo Odinga was pocketed, and that is now where we are having handshake in an hidden form. This handshake is not it's not like the others. It is in hidden form. You don't know what is happening, but definitely you can know the silence of Raila Amolo Odinga is like it is sponsored by William Samoei Ruto. So I think Raila Amolo Odinga he is very trusted by Kenyans, but again, it reaches a time where he becomes so selfish and he satisfies his wants rather than making sure that Kenyans are well represented in the government through opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Boniface, and my viewers. Welcome once again. If you're joining me for the first time, this is a free 24-hour TV. This is a political talk show. Of course, today we are having a special politic. We are discussing matters Kenyan politics, and if you can see here, we are really discussing the Handshake Chronicles. We've been taken through several handshakes that have taken place in this country, whereby people who've been opposing each other finally decide to reconcile and work together. What we've seen that have been happening in this country is that after each and every election for the last 2 decades, if I maybe I'm not certain, but if you go by the last 2 decades, that is the last 4 elections, we've been having some issues after the elections whereby people disagree. So, Mzalendo, just a quick one. Could it be that it's normally because of that margin is normally small that makes the people nobody wants to accept that okay, we've lost or we have to concede defeat? Does it mean that the race is normally that competitive to an extent that the difference is slim, making somebody feel that okay, I think I'm the one who won the elections? Is it about credibility, or is it about that stiff competition that gives a slim margin?
You know, Leo, today as we speak, this is the year 2024. Kenya is divided into two groups, and we are sharply divided with what we call tribal kings, kingpins, or they're not tribal; they are political kingpins, because Raila support cuts across beyond tribe. So these political kingpins are the ones that divide the country. People follow them. People follow them anywhere they go. Today, if Raila Odinga joins William Ruto, everybody who supports Raila Odinga, including Leo, my friend, will be in State House, dining and wining with the current president. So it's a matter of principle. I look at it like most of the leaders are not really principled, and they don't know what they're fighting for. Either they are fighting for their own selfish interests and not the people of Kenya, or they put the people of Kenya's interest uh, at a certain percentage, but largely it is their interest that they are fighting for. When you go back and look at the report in NADCA, the NADCO report was to prepare you psychologically to accept anything that is going to happen between William Ruto and Raila Odinga. Right now, you see there is a lot of calm in Raila supporters. But a few years ago, you could see, I wish you had some clips, you could see how agitated Raila supporters were and saying that there would not be any.
Muzalendo, just
Yeah.
on that, I just maybe want to ask you. You've talked of the NADCO report. That is a result of the meeting or the some cooling down agreements between William Ruto and Raila. When
Mm.
Raila and Uhuru shook hands, they came up with something that was called the Building Bridges Initiative. And when Raila and Mwai Kibaki reconciled, we had what was known as the National Accord, which, if you look at these three documents, it's like they try to alter or they try to modify our constitution. So does it mean that our constitution have not addressed the electoral issues? And if so, why can't we now do, instead of waiting for chaos to modify our constitution, why can't we just have these things sorted through a constitutional moment so that we move on? Do you think that when we now
Uh,
put them into
yeah,
constitution, we not have the same problems?
Leo, you brought a very good point, a very interesting perspective that nobody is talking about. The National Accord. I wish you could download the National Accord so that people can know what the National Accord was all about. The National Accord had got 8 pointers in the National Accord. that Justice and Kriegler said must be implemented for leaders in Kenya for as long as the national accord is not constituted in our constitution or is not addressed. The issues that Kriegler addressed, if they were not addressed, then Kenya will not be stable for the remaining political years. That was addressed in the Kibaki term when they had the issues with Raila Odinga. That was addressed during the post-election, after the post-election violence. So we had the 3 pointers of the 8 pointers of the National Accord, and those pointers have not been addressed. Why they have not been addressed? Raila had a position. Raila was in position as a prime minister. With Mwai Kibaki as the president, they ought to have addressed that issue then. But why the political class, they do not want to address the National Accord. The National Accord talks about so many important points in Kenya, and again, affects your base. It talks about the land reforms. It talks about nepotism, tribalism. It talks about all these things. It talks about how the civil service should be constituted, the civil service. So that was all in the National Accord. But do the politicians really want to implement that? I don't think so, because it affects their political bases directly. So some of these things, politics has come in, and they will never be implemented. Or even if they are going to be implemented, they are implemented in piecemeal. What we have in NADCO report, if you pull up the NADCO report, and I wish one of these fine days you could pull up the NADCO report and then pull up the National Accord and the 8 pointers, you will see a similarity of the documents. The only thing that is different is the wording. So when the wording is what is different, or the players are what is different, and the issues that they are addressing at this particular time are all the same. So this is something that we need to look at and see that our politicians are actually playing us to the game. They're actually playing us. They know what they're doing. They should have implemented the National Accord, because most of these guys who are currently in Parliament, a good percentage of them were there in Kibaki's time, and they were there in Uhuru's time. So I have got no. I have got no. There's a kid disturbing me here. I have no words. I don't know what he's doing. I have no words for the political class, and they ought to implement those things on the shelves. They need to pull the National Accord. They need not to waste taxpayers' money with some bogus conferences, yet they know the problem where it lies. The problem is still on the National Accord. Even when we move to the next election, if they don't implement what Kriegler report was the most balanced commission ever constituted in Kenya. And they went throughout the Republic of Kenya. Forget about this political class sitting in bombers and pretending that they are addressing our issues. The Kriegler report touched each and every province.
Maybe if you just allow me a minute to take you through what was in the National Accord, because I'll get to you, and I also want to get to Bonnie to see if these things are similar, or the ones that are popping up now are different. I just want you to take it keen, and you'll be able to realize some similarity. So in the National Accord, I'll just give you the description of the act: an act of parliament to provide for the settlement of the dispute arising from the presidential elections of 2007, formation of a coalition government, and establishment of the offices of Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and ministers of the government of Kenya, their functions and various matters connected with and incidental to the foregoing. Number one, this act may be cited as a National Accord and Reconciliation Act 28. Number two, this act shall come into force upon its publication in Kenya Gazette, which shall not be later than 14 days. Number three, there shall be a Prime Minister of the government of Kenya and 2 deputy prime ministers who shall be appointed by the president in accordance with this section. 2, that is 3.2. The person to be appointed as a prime minister shall be an elected member of the National Assembly who is in the parliamentary leader of the political party that has the largest number of members in the National Assembly, or a coalition of political parties in the event that the leader of the political party has the largest number of members of the National Assembly, does not command the majority in the National Assembly. 3, each member of the coalition shall nominate one person from the elected members of the National Assembly to be appointed as deputy prime minister. The Prime Minister shall have authority to coordinate and supervise the execution of the function of the affairs of the government, may assign any of the coordination responsibility of his office to the Deputy Prime Minister, and shall perform such other duties that may be assigned by the President or under the law. Yeah? We had the office of the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister shall become vacant. Those ones I think is not important. The cabinet shall consist of the President, the Vice President, and the Prime Minister, and the 2 Deputy Prime Minister. It talks of dissolving the coalition, and the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister shall be entitled to salaries and allowances. So that was part of what was in the National Accord. I want you to go back to this document called the BBI. It also recommended the same thing. Go back to NADCO report. It also recommends the same thing. And you'll find that after the National Accord in 2008, we had an expanded executive to accommodate people from both political factions. When President Uhuru Kenyatta took power, we had though the 2010 constitution limits the number of CS, it is constitutional, he can't go beyond the limit. But what they did, they created positions called the CAS, something that is still being challenged in court up to date. So maybe Mzalendo, I'll just give you a minute before I give Benson, sorry, not Benson, but before I give Mr. Kimanzi to also weigh on. Aren't we doing the same thing but differently?
Yes, I told you. Now you've read it, because this is something that you've been politicking and you've not gone through that document. Now you've seen it with your own eyes. You've seen that it is the same document. It's the same. The only difference is that we have different players. And remember, BBI came so close to addressing some of these things that was in the curricular report. The only thing that the blueprint that was in BBI was the Prime Minister's position that was coming in as Uhuru, who after retirement would be coming in as the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. So that was already there. But now, even in William Ruto's government, he's addressing that issue technically, but people are not realizing how he's addressing it. The new position created by cabinet assistant secretaries, those cabinet assistant secretaries are actually some of the things that you'll be seeing. You'll see in the coming months, and let me be the first to break it. In the coming months, we see that people from Raila's opposition joining government as assistant cabinet secretaries. That is going to happen. Whether you like it or not, they will be part of the government. And these are some of the agreements that come with these handshakes. So these handshakes are not just for you. They are just a way of incorporating us in this large government and us sharing that piece of cake at the expense of the taxpayers. At the expense of the taxpayers. So we'll pay more taxes because the government will be of course bloated. It will be so huge, a burden to taxpayers. Who is addressing that issue? Nobody seems to be addressing that issue. Nobody is interested in that issue. We are interested in we are in our tribal corners. looking at our tribal kingpin, probably is telling you the truth, or but you're not thinking as a Kenyan. And that's why I pose to those who are listening and those who are out there, and the panelists here today, is that forget about your tribe for a minute and think of your country as Kenya. Forget about your tribe for just 1 minute. Assume that the Republic of Kenya does not have a president called William Ruto. We don't have a Raila Odinga, and we don't have a Kalonzo Musyoka. How do we want our country to be? That is the question. Leo, I'll be back in a short while. Let me address some issues.
Thank you so much, Mzalendo. That's really wonderful. At least you've been able to give us some instincts of what has been happening. So, Bonnie, you've had all these documents. You started with the National Accord. We went to BBI. We are now in NADCO. Do we need these documents?
I think we don't need those documents. We have a Kenyan constitution that tackles everything. So we don't need those documents. Even the OC bill, even this NADCO, even the BBI that was rejected, we don't need those documents in our country because we have a lot of things to focus on. And our constitution gives us every directions that we can take this country and we can also manage this country. So I think we don't need those documents and those laws that are now being processed and being implemented in this country. I think we are okay the way we are. Let's make this country go on. Let's improve our developments. Let's make sure that our country catches up with those developed countries. But again, if we are still being focusing with these things, such as NADCO and also BBI and also the housing bill, we are going to be wasted country. Let's focus with the development. Let's develop this country. I think the president has a lot of things to do. He should not be focusing with this kind of things. He's brilliant president. I think he can do a lot of things rather than giving us this BPI and NADCO report. For what? How is it going to help the normal Kenyan? Mwananchi? How? So I think these reports they are giving us here, the bills they are making, just to confuse the common Mwananchi. I think we need to develop this country. When you have the power, it is high time now William Ruto gives the legacy. You want to give a legacy. He has now the handshake, which has cooled down the opposition part of this government. So what do you need to do? We need to develop this country. You need to leave a legacy. You need to do something extraordinary that late Mwai Kibaki and the former president Uhuru Kenyatta they did not do. Let him perform, because Kenyans will always rate president by their performance. Because you hear they always recognize the late Mzee Mwai Kibaki because of kind of things and how he used to perform in his government. So I don't think that we need this kind of documents. I totally disagree with them because I'm not a supporter of Buddha government. They are doing totally nonsense.
Thank you. Mr. Boniface Kimanzi, you totally disagree with them. I've been joined by one and only Kenyan revolutionary. Yeah? He's a rebel. He's a rebellious son of Kenya. So revolutionary, how I wish I could see your face. Are you putting on that Lejo Maria dress, or today you okay in a shirt? Good. Good afternoon. Welcome. Today, actually, we are not opposing anybody. We are not discussing something that is making people to oppose or propose, but we are looking at the Handshake Chronicles. I know you are following from the background. We've had handshakes in this country right from Moi. I'll not talk of the Moi one because I didn't witness it. Maybe I was still young. I saw the handshake between Raila and Kibaki. I saw the handshake between Raila and Uhuru. And currently, I'm smelling. And of course, I'm not a prophet. I don't intend to be one. But I can see a handshake, working relationship between Raila and Uhuru. It doesn't mean that they need to shake the hand. And Ruto, sorry. But the kind of the politics that is playing out right now can tell you that these guys are in a reconciliatory mood. So Kenyan revolutionary. In all these things, I know this is something that when I talk of, you normally take it passionately because you are victim of the activities that happens after the elections or the post-election kind of violences that later leads into this kind of shaking hands. Do you think we need to be holding elections in Kenya? Why don't we just say that we don't need to hold election? We say so and so you'll become president, and like we look at those people who are aspiring to become presidents, and we do an opinion poll. We know this one. We have the two horses. Wanasemanga parasi ni mbili. So out of these two parasi, we say wewe parasi mwingine utaingia State House, wewe parasi mwingine itakuwa handshake hivi na hivi. Kenya revolutionary. I just need your humble comment on that.
Yeah, Leo, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I just wanted to disagree with Mzalendo. And at first, also, the premise of your question that you asked him, you kind of insinuated that we need to change the constitution so for us to have better elections. But the problem is not the constitution. Again, just because Raila Odinga, summoned his psychopathic followers to the streets because he felt that he lost, that does not mean that the problem is with the constitution. Okay? If you remember the judgment by that high court when they were trying to put this NADCO thing, the judge said that the constitution should be followed. They should go on and pick up the IBC, choose the IBC, whatever, the selection panel. And and he also added by saying that let's not delay obeying the law in the name of political expediency. So, which basically he's saying is that this Raila Odinga and also Uhuru, the current president, who is breaching the constitution, is breaking, is mutilating this constitution by the Affordable Acts, sending the police in Haiti, and now he wants to get these CSS appointing them, and the judge and then the courts already ruled on that. But he doesn't care because he has his brother, who is now his brother, who he's sending to AU. They've agreed together that they will not respect the constitution. So the problem in Kenya is not the constitution. The constitution actually addresses all these issues that we are talking about. The problem is the political class. The NADCO, Mzalendo was trying to tell us that the NADCO is addressing the problems of the election. The NADCO does not. The NADCO is simply creating positions for these two political parties. Okay, same thing with the BBI. Okay, the National Accord was we came up with the National Accord. It was supposed to be a short-term solution before the new constitution was promulgated, if you remember. So once we had this new 2010 constitution, we don't need this NADCO, BBI, and this nonsense that these people want to bring us. These people are criminal. Raila Odinga is a criminal. He's a terrorist, leader of the terrorist group. Same as Ruto. They are brutalizing, mutilating the constitution in the name of bringing peace. So we shouldn't allow this. This is an illegality. These two are mutilating the constitution, Leo. You should understand that. And this NADCO, even the courts, regardless of how much you might think of them, they did something that's great, beneficial to Kenyans by saying that this NADCO thing is not anchored in law. And the affordable housing you saw.
Kenya revolutionary, sorry.
Before I finish,
the same guys are mutilating the constitution. Anytime we are having this kind of handshake, we normally have documents that are prepared so that they can be adopted to become part of constitution, maybe an act or something like that. So, yeah. Because if this, like the National Accord was adopted, though we were still using the old constitution. So yes. Do you think it is a good idea to come up with these documents to try and make some changes or alter the constitution, or we should just be told that, okay, let us change this constitution once and forever. We go for a referendum and...
No, Leo, listen. The reason why BBI was stopped because it came from the president. Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who appointed Amos Wako and the useless people, lawyers that have been during Moi regime to come up with this BBI. And the court said that the president cannot come up with a document and force it upon Kenyans, to force the parliament to pass it so we can go to a referendum. The same thing, the court pronounced itself by saying that this NADCO, if you think about who came up with this NADCO report, it was Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. Were you represented at that Bomas Center? You're not represented. Who is supposed to represent us? Our politicians, our representative MPs. So the matter should have been debated and initiated at the legislative body, which it was not. They brought useless people like Alonso and Ichungwa to go discuss it at Bomas Center, and we were paying them illegally 100 million. So you cannot bring a document and claim that this is going to help solve our problems. That document, Muna agree as Kenya Kwanza and Azimio. We have 50 million Kenyans. We are more than most of us didn't even vote for those two-party coalitions. So you can't operate outside the law and tell us that, oh, this is the solution, we have a problem. In fact, this problem was brought about by who? Raila Odinga and his minions. Okay? So let's not play these games. These people are operating illegally, and you are letting them. These people should be burning in hell, all of them. Start with Raila Odinga.
Kenya revolutionary, cool down. Let me ask you this. You know that Raila Odinga had a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. We don't know what was their long-term plan. Some people try to preempt that this guy's plan that shall Raila become the president. Maybe there was a way he was supposed to bring Uhuru back into active politics, maybe through this prime minister, such kind of things. Though I can't say it is true. It is just a street talk. Now that even Goodyear is confirming that Raila and Ruto have shaken some hands, it's a matter of truth that Ruto is a sworn enemy of Uhuru Kenyatta, and anytime he speaks,
no,
he
they're not. They were pretending.
Just listen. Anything that Ruto says, he blames Uhuru Kenyatta for everything. For the progress of this country, he gives Uhuru Kenyatta all the negative responsibility. How do you think Uhuru Kenyatta will feel if Raila, whom he had a handshake with and he thinks is his ally, have an handshake
Leo,
with
let me help you.
Ruto, who is blaming him for everything, even for
Leo,
lack of rain in the country?
You are talking too much. Let me help you. You're talking too much. Let me answer you. Let me help you. These people are not enemies. If Uhuru was the enemy with Ruto should have taken the land that the Kenyatta family has been stealing since independence, and he could have arrested him for the crimes that he committed before. Okay, if they were really enemies. Okay, these people are friends. Raila Odinga's main purpose in Kenya is to stop a grassroots revolutionary movement from rising. That's why he's always in the opposition. We gave him power in 2007. You hear me, Leo? Leo is I'm a freeze, but hopefully he'll come back. But anyway, we gave him power in 2007. We sworn him in as the people's president, and he refused. He went back and shake hands with the loser, Uhuru Kenyatta. So why are we surprised that he's in a handshake with what's his face, Ruto? Okay, I can't even blame Ruto, but Ruto is not an enemy with Kenyatta. In politics, tu wanajifanya hapa. These people drink together. They are family friends. They do everything together. Anyway, let me hear from you. I don't want to be the one talking. I don't know where Leo went.
Continue. Maybe the network has the problem on his end.
Yeah. So what I want to tell Kenyans is this. Let's not be fooled by these games, by these politicians. These political elites are in one group. Their families are friends. They do the things, everything. Wana tupanga sisi wananchi. Right? Just like Muzalendo just mentioned to us, every time we have a handshake, you see there's a new political coalition is being formed. But at the end of the day, utaona Raila will be on the opposition. Utamwona atarudi 2027 again. He will be the opposition. And he will be the main opposition, okay? Then nani atashinda tena. Nani Ruto atashinda tena. Then you'll hear him say, oh, sijui, ameiba kura. Then they shall change the constitution so he can become the prime minister. So these are the games that these guys play. There's no opposition. They are trying to suppress wananchi kama mimi na wewe Leo na mandugu yangu hapo katikati, so that we don't start a grassroots revolutionary movement that will change the political class to pay for the crimes that they've committed since independence. That's what they have been doing. Thank you.
You're maybe I'm bringing in Boniface. How can Kenyans now overcome this issue? Because if you look at all these kind of handshakes, it's the same thing. There's a constant who is Raila Odinga, and Uhuru is still in the play. Ruto is still in the play. It's not the first time you are hearing the name William Ruto. He is not appearing for the first time. Kenyans tried going on the street, but when they go on the street, it's either sponsored by Raila. When they oppose the streets, it's sponsored by Uhuru or Ruto to oppose the streets. So do you think there's a way Kenyans can chart their own ways? Like if they go for demonstration, they go for a demonstration without Raila or Ruto. Or if they oppose the government, they oppose that government without Raila or Ruto or Uhuru.
I think personally, when we have Raila Odinga, who is the leader of the opposition in the country, joining the government, then that shows that Kenyans now are still pocketed. Kenyans now, they don't have the powers, because you cannot just wake up and say, I want to go and start maandamano without orders from one of the top leaders who is trusted by Kenyans. So I think Raila Odinga is one of the people who has been giving Kenyans a lot of hopes and guiding Kenyans on what they can do. So I think if Raila joins the government, then definitely we are going to have no opposition. So Kenyans will not have any powers, not unless we have the likes of the young leaders who are scrutting, and they are trying to prove that they can be the next king when it comes to this government, and they can give pressures as the opposition. We have been seeing Baba Wino trying to prove that he can be the next king. But again, I think if we can give our support to Edwin Sifuna, I think Edwin Sifuna is the guy, and the Senator Okiya Omtata. Those are the guys who I believe that they can have 60% of qualities that are possessed by Raila Odinga, that Kenyans can trust them. Whenever they start anything, they will follow. So I think Kenyans will still suffer until to the end. I think Kenyans now know that they have nothing to lose, or they have nothing to gain when it comes to this government.
Boniface, you're saying Kenyans can only go on the streets when these streets are sanctioned by Raila Odinga or somebody with Raila's blessing. But from the look of things, you see, Raila is now with William Ruto. So Kenyans should wait for Raila now to enjoy. Do you think Raila is going to take them to the streets? Is there no way Kenyans can go on the streets on their own and demand for what rightfully belongs to them without Raila in play or somebody blessed by Raila?
No, definitely are going to be harassed by the government, because whenever you are seen on the roads, you are seen in this market trying to demonstrate, and they will ask you very tough questions. Who has given you the holders? So you will any Kenyans who will be going to the streets, then definitely we saw what happened during those mandamano.
And do you think Raila can call them for a mandamano if it is not going to serve Raila's interest?
Yes. But again, we can see, as one of our followers here, Gudia, has said.
Okay, you've said yes.
Raila Odinga is going to.
You've said yes, meaning Raila can call a mandamano if his interest is not there. The last mandamanos that you've seen being called, I don't know what you'll take of it. When we had mandamano during the Uhuru's time, we had a handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. I don't want to go to that. I want to bring you what is fresh. You saw the mandamano that Kenyans went. people went for NADCO. Majority of the Kenyans were putting on sufurias, talking of the cost of living. That wasn't addressed in the NADCO address, in the NADCO report. Number two, after the NADCO, you saw one of Raila's sister, blood sister, has been appointed as a high commissioner, what some people will literally call an ambassador. Raila is now being campaigned for to go to AU. Do you still believe that Raila was calling people to go for Mandamano when his interest was not in those Mandamanos? Were people going for Mandamano because of Raila's interest or people's interest? Because people's interest was the cost of living, which wasn't addressed. But Raila's interest has been addressed. Are you still convinced that people go for Mandamano because of their own interest, not Raila's interest?
Always Raila Amolo Odinga represents the common mwananchi. As I told you that Raila Amolo Odinga is the president of the people. So whatever he says, every citizen is going to obey, because he has been addressing about the high cost of living. And we know that the high cost of living is so high. He has been addressing with the government so that they can try to make this country move on well by making sure that they consider the common mwananchi. They're making sure that they consider what they promised to Mama Mboga. Mama Mboga here is the common mwananchi who doesn't have any payslip. So I think if William Ruto now absorbed Raila Amolo Odinga, so nobody else will do that, not unless Raila Amolo Odinga has endorsed someone to take over this opposition. Because in every country, we always have opposition. And in opposition, it is where we get that pressure, where the government now performs. Because if they don't perform, then the opposition calls for mandamano, and the mandamano are the things that makes the government to get their points deducted in how they are performing in generally. And that is where the government now tries to push so that they can make sure they do what the citizens are pushing for. So I think Raila Amolo Odinga, when we know that he has joined the handshake. So for this government, if he joins, then and he is supported for the EU, then definitely for the next 10 years, now the next 8 years, we are going to suffer. I personally believe that, because once I saw what happened, then I knew Kenyans don't have anything to say when it comes to this government. We are going to adhere to what they're doing. We saw what they did according to the housing bill. Kenyans were rejecting it, but again, towards the end, the bill was signed. So we don't have anyone to represent us. You can raise your voice, but the voice just reaches ionosphere. You cannot even reach the upper part of the atmosphere. I mean the government. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Kenya
Hold
Revolutionary,
on. Let me
I have a question. I know it is you.
Wait, let me answer first before your question.
All right. Yes. Nobody asked your question, so are you responding or what are you answering?
What I want to rebuttal what my friend has said there, then I'll let you ask the question very quickly.
Okay.
Number one, Kenya, we do have an opposition. Okay, the housing bill, yes, it has passed through devious means, but we have a gentleman who was going to went to the courts the first time. Okay, Omtata went to the courts. Okay, he's one person. We don't. And
even currently, the act has been challenged. Yeah. I think I'll share with you the document. It has already been challenged. Already, a case has been filed.
And what did they say?
Okay, I'll read it for you. Let me just get it.
Okay, Omtata said this. The court decided not to give it a stay. It's a stop issue, but he can still put it to be repealed.
I'm saying forget about the Okiya Omtata. The recent one that the president has sent it to has already been challenged to court by some other gentlemen. Yeah,
that is what I'm talking about, Leo. Yeah. He was denied. His first motion was to put a stay on it, so he doesn't endelea. But he can still go ahead, and that's why you saw Ruto and send goons to attack Okiya Omtata after he left the court. Number two, my friend is wrong when he says that Raila Odinga has always fought for the common mwananchi. Raila does not care about the common mwananchi. Raila is a con man. the biggest conman in the Kenyan history, and I'll tell you why. Raila lost his
say why, and I would really appreciate if
okay,
you
if you're going to interrupt with me, I might as well just go finish watching Brazil versus England, because I hate when somebody is I'm making a point and you're saying, I'm saying this. In 2017, when Raila Odinga shook hands with Uhuru Kenyatta, that is the day that people stopped pressing, supporting Raila, because they realized that this guy is a scam artist. That's why he lost in 2022. He didn't get enough votes. It's utter rubbish, nonsense. Because people did not like Uhuru Kenyatta. And they didn't like the fact that we voted for Raila Odinga, then Raila went and shook hands with the same killer that was killing us and alikuwa anatunyanyasa. Okay? So we've known that after that, even the maandamano that he was calling, he didn't have supporters. He had to call that killer, Maina Njenga, to bring Mungiki to kill people so that he can make impact, cause terrorism, so that the president can sit down with him. Raila has no supporters besides Nyanza province and his psychopathic followers in Kibera. So let's stop cheating each other here. Raila is fighting for people. Uliona hiyo picha yake akipiga hapo kwa private jet. Where were his supporters? If he really cared about the cost of living, why can't he say that before I go to AU, tuendeni maandamano ndio hii cost of living iende chini? They agreed upon everything besides that. And ndio huyo amepewa cheo anaenda. So Raila is in a non-issue. He's a done deal. Ruto ameweka kwa kona kamfinya Makende. Imeisha. He has no influence. Okay? So we Kenyans, we can still fight through people like Okiya Mtata, and if Sifuna leaves ODM, which is a terrorist organization, we can bring these people down. That's all I want to say.
I just wanted to ask you a question. Do you think Raila has betrayed Uhuru Kenyatta by having a good working relationship with William Ruto?
No, they are friends. These people want to make deals. These people drink together. They intermarry, they hang out in the same spot. That's why I ask you, if you really think Raila Odinga or Ruto is enemies with Uhuru Kenyatta, why is Uhuru Kenyatta still walking around freely after the things that he did? Why is he
nobody has filed a case? Any Kenya is at liberty to file a case.
That's what I'm saying. You're making my point. I'm saying if Ruto was serious, if he really hated Uhuru Kenyatta, there's plenty of evidence that this criminal killed a lot of people. Okay? So that ambia, msidanganywe na wama politicians. They're dividing you along party lines. Mkifikiria ati Raila this way is fighting. Raila has never fought for anything. He's a con artist. Same as Rudani, huyu Kenyatta. Kenyatta is a killer, the child of a killer. So as Ruto. Thank you.
Haya. Inaonekana kuna moto hapo.
Before you come in, I know he's called Mheshimiwa Honorable Machoka is also in here. I would just request, maybe if you don't mind having our videos on, I would really appreciate. Moto naye naona kuna waka. Machoka pia najua amekuja na kombora. So kabla tumpatie Machoka nafasi pia na aseme neno, on the comment section we are also having people there who are also participating, and I really like the fact that they are keeping the comment section engaged. Goodia is there, and Kenya Revolutionary, you wanted to go finish watching the game between England versus Brazil. It's so unfortunate you're being told that England has been beaten 1-0. Of course, we are here also to give you some updates, but if you want more analysis, we normally have a Dimba Afrique each and every Saturday from 11 a.m. East African time, where we give you the sports updates, we give you predictions, and we also give you some in-depth analysis of what happens in the sporting world. So don't miss such kind of show. Tuko na pale kaka sijui ni shabiki wa Liverpool, sijui ni shabiki wa Manchester, anajulikana kama kakake ule Kimanzi mwenyewe, manake he shares a name with one of the great coaches that we've been having in this country. He
you said support Manchester?
No. I've not engaged you. So, viewers, if you're watching this for the first time, ensure that you subscribe to a free 24-hour. We not only give you this kind of political talks, political debates, but we also have some other programs that will suit your viewership. So, ensure you subscribe and be a member. We are not asking much from you. We only need your subscription. That is the only way you can support us. We are not giving you a pay bill number. We are not making you maybe to become a paid member, but you just subscribe and relax. You will at least get something that can suit you once in a while to watch. So, Mzalendo, if you allow me to welcome Honorable Machoka, he also shares a name with some great Kenyans. When I talk of Machoka, he will tell you the person he shares the name with in his opening remarks. So, Mr. Machoka, karibu sana Afrika.
Yes, good good morning, good evening, wherever you are, guys. Nimekuwa away sana for some time. I think I've been away for 2 weeks now, but I'm trying to settle down. I moved to Nairobi and I'm trying to settle and find a good place where I can also be joining these interviews in a good way. I've been listening in the background and I'm really surprised that Boniface can say whatever he just said there, and I'm really shocked that he doesn't believe that Kenyans can stand on their own. I'm going to I'm trying to also put together things that I can say, but today I'm going to be in the side of Kenya Revolutionary because I think it's time we call a spade, and as much as I'm a Ruto person, anything touching the constitution, anything touching on the law, anything touching on constitutionality should never and can never be touched, and I will never allow that to happen. And I personally, I've never wanted to believe that there is somebody who is bigger than us, the supreme people who give them the power to do whatever they do up there. So whatever the shenanigans these people are trying to play, and we Kenyans are just, I think the only people who are scared are those people who support Raila blindly, because those are the people who wait for Raila to give them an alarm. We taught Uhuru a lesson. We who supported him in 2017, we taught him a lesson. Tulimwambia, we voted for you twice, but you are not going to take us the way you want. Those are the people, those are the kind of people that we want in this Kenya. But those people who want Raila to always apige firimbi ndio watu watoke, those kind of people, you cannot allow them in this country. That's why I'm saying that as a person who as a growing and a young man who is growing and has a very let me say a bright future, I'm not going to sit here and believe that we don't have power as a people. I'm not going to sit here and believe that the constitution is just too weak to speak for itself. So these shenanigans of these politicians believing that they can just change the constitution the way they want is not going to happen. And if you think that we Kenyans are so weak, let them try and bring it on. We taught Uhuru that lesson, and we are going to teach anybody who is trying to do that a lesson. Even if now this time round they want to, they team up Uhuru, Ruto, and Raila. Changing this constitution that we were given in 2010 is not going to happen. And I'm promising you that mimi na Kenya Revolutionary tutalii hiyo maandamano yenye nyinyi mnaogopa. And that's why I want to say, and I want to be so clear to you right now that as much as we support our political parties, let's also be the people. Acha pia sisi tukue na utu. Ukiona kitu mbaya, just say is bad. Don't just say something because you are a Raila person or you are a Ruto person. Don't just purport to be so much into someone until you can't see mistakes. I personally support Ruto, but I am not blind because I have my eyes. I want to be president of Kenya one day. If you want to be president of this country, you have to see the mistakes so that when you get into presidency, you don't do. That's one thing I want to say. If the president, the current president, who himself taught us that Uhuru Kenyatta was mutilating the constitution, let me use the word that Kenya Revolutionary used. Uhuru Kenyatta was mutilating the constitution in 2021 and 2019, 2021, EO BBI stuff. William Ruto was the person who was leading at the forefront in defending the constitution. And I believe that William Ruto should keep his word. And we must remind him every day that you are the person who disagreed with Uhuru in matter of constitution. And you said that you will not allow anybody to change the constitution. I personally will feel bad if Mr. President goes against his own words and I will feel so bad that he is going to let this constitution that was fought for. And he himself noted the problems in 2010 and said that this constitution is not as good as you guys think. And I personally I believe, because I also listened to my church leaders who are speaking about the constitution a lot. They told us that this constitution is not as good as it looks. And Raila Odinga has a record of conning people. I'm not going to spare any words here. Raila Odinga has a tendency of conning people, or after every election, he makes sure that there is something that he will negotiate at the background, at the expense of people's lives, at the expense of people's properties, to make sure that his interests and his family's interests are cared for. We've never had another politician like Raila. That's why I wish that this guy disappears from Kenya so that we can have another generation of politicians. Because the likes of Edwin Sifuna that Kenya Revolution has mentioned here are very, very great leaders that we as Kenyans expect that they take over from Raila and are now a constitutional opposition. You know, Raila has never been constitutional in his position. That's why I usually feel like we've never had opposition in Kenya. We've had a cartel in opposition, because Raila Odinga makes sure that after election, he looks for a way of complaining that he lost an election, and after losing an election, he looks for an excuse of taking people to the streets, and in that streets, they just speak those things that they want Kenyans to hear, so that they can come out and protest, and also kushtua government that I have numbers behind me, and if you play with us, we are going to do this. If you are not going to sit with me in a meeting and we agree on what I want, not what Kenyans want, we are going to ban this country. That's Raila that you have. I can tell you when I was growing in 2007. I was for Raila Odinga that time, because I felt like there are things that Kibaki was also doing that weren't right. But I was young and maybe I misjudged him. But there's a way that they explained to us about the referendum, that report that was made to change the constitution that was being passed all over the country that they were opposing. There's an argument that William Ruto made that made me realize that if this guy is going to stand for president one day, I'm going to vote for him, because that time he made a lot of sense, and I stood by that. And of course, you know what happened in 2005, the referendum collapsed. So in 2010, when Raila Odinga, who was with William Ruto campaigning and telling people that the constitution that Kibaki wanted to bring was bad, after his interests was catered for, and we've had William Ruto in the past saying that the seat of prime minister that was supposed to be his was taken by Raila, who is also, and I'm also trying to explain the tendency of him conning people, who shortchanged Ruto and made sure that Ruto will go and suffer somewhere in The Hague so that he never becomes a threat in the future. That is the deal that was being negotiated between Kofi Annan and other people. There is no other deal that was being negotiated. Those talks that you saw, those were for
Honorable
the media.
Vincent, before you came, we read the National Accord, and the National Accord.
I heard that.
Is the one who created the position of the Prime Minister, and it is defined there clearly. Can you just read it so that you don't mislead people?
Yes, I know.
And tell us where the National Accord
agree.
was saying that position was for William Ruto. Just read
I
it
agree.
as a matter of
I agree.
fact. We don't want to
I want to
mislead
agree
people.
with you. First of all, I'm not disagreeing with whatever you guys read. I was listening, and that's why I'm trying to say that these people are con men and they are conning people.
Statement. It's so misleading.
Listen, I'm trying to explain why. Because, I said that the things that you guys read were for the people and for the press. But the things that were being discussed in the offices and in the hotels at night were the things that happened. Because if you want to tell us that the Kenyans were so angry that they got out to strike, and when Raila said that let's stop the mass action so that we can allow the talks, and the people just all of a sudden stopped, that's telling us that we Kenyans are fools, that we are remote controls. No. Because tell me why the people stopped going to Maandamano last year because Raila just agreed to meet William Ruto in Mombasa. That's how Raila Odinga supporters behave. That's how they have been behaving since ages. They are not changing. Even their children's children are the same. They are not changing. They are the same.
Somebody is saying this, that for those people who maybe follow specific religion, if you are a religious leader comes today and say you start fasting, you will go fasting. If today Jesus tells you that they've forgiven Satan, you stop blaming Satan for everything and that kind of thing, then people will have to change. You know, when you are in power, you have to be followed. And one of the things that show that you are powerful and you're in control is when people follow you without questioning. That is when you wield power. But if you a leader who people can't listen to, then you're not a leader. A leader is to give direction and is to be followed. The leader doesn't follow people.
Then I cannot be part of that. Personally, I've followed William Ruto for years, and the reason why I followed him is because there are so many issues that I agree with him, but there are a lot of things that I also agree with him. I disagree with him, especially there's an issue that the Kenyan Revolutionary said here. If I were William Ruto today, of course, I know constitutionally William Ruto is not supposed to arrest anybody. That's not his job, and maybe that one is a correction that I will make to Kenya Revolutionary. But as William Ruto, I could have established a very, very serious investigative team to return back the 2 billion that Uhuru was losing every day, to make sure that the likes of Matiang'i, who stashed a lot of billions out of the country, are returning the money back. That's one of the things that I disagree with the president right now.
Just hold on there, then they'll come back to you. Your time, we want to ensure that everybody gets an equal time. Just hold on there. They'll come back to you. I'll give it to Mzalendo, who is now going to also direct us and give us a timekeeping. And of course, after Mzalendo, I know Mzalendo will go to Bonfast, then Mzalendo will then go to Kenya Revolutionary, of which you are responding to. And just to help Kenya Revolutionary, or to give him a hint, the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So arrest is done by a branch or an arm of the armed forces. So I think nimeibia Kenya Revolutionary Siri kidogo, so he will build on that to respond to you. So Mzalendo, you can take it over. It seems Mzalendo kama hapatikani, then with the acceptance of Boniface, I'll get to Kenya Revolutionary. You've been mentioned, though you've not been mentioned completely, but I'll give you Boniface an advantage.
It was Boniface's time. Let him talk first, and I'll
No, he's the one who is telling me to allow you talk.
Oh, me? Okay.
He is the one who is telling me to allow you talk, then he will go next. That is what brotherhood is. Yeah. He wants you to address. Boniface is saying that it's not the role of William Ruto to arrest people. So why do you have to blame Ruto for not arresting Uhuru Kenyatta?
Okay, yes. It's not his role. He cannot arrest him directly. But again, you can start a commission to look into the past corrupt deals that has happened in the past regimes, whether it's Uhuru regime, Kibaki regime, Moi, and you can go back to that. We were talking about Kriegler report, and there was Ndungu report too about land. We can follow up on that and see who actually owns what and how people got their lands. You can get them in so many ways. So what I'm trying to say, the point I was trying to make is this. Ruto is in a position where if he really wanted to fix or prosecute indirectly Kenyatta, he can do that. Okay, that's the point I was making. The second point, Leo, when you're saying that if you're a leader, people should be listening to you. I don't know, Jesus should forget Satan. Leo, I don't know what you're drinking, but I'll forgive you because I see you have covered your hair like a madman. So today I'll just leave you. I have to pick on you, Leo. I like you. That's why I do that. What to Arsenal? Anyway, what I was trying to say is this, Leo. Even as a follower, you have to also think for yourself. You know, when a leader tells you kunyweni sumu, utakunywa just because you're a follower. You know, you have to.
Kenya Revolutionary. Yeah. I understand you. I'm not interrupting you. I'm not opposing you. I want to tell you a story. A story is told of somebody called Melkio Ondeto, the founder of Legio Maria. I know this story relates well with you. This Melkio Ondeto took some Legio Marians to a certain river in my constituency next to my village called Rivandoya. In English, it's called Rivanzoia, and told them that they can fly to heaven. People started flying, and at least there are some people who died. something that made the government or the authority to arrest Melki Ondeto and detain him in my village, a police post that is built in my grandfather's land called Ukwala Police Post. And up to date, 26 December, the Legio Maria Fellows across the world comes there for some demonstrations. You are a member of Legio Maria. You can explain that one better.
I'm not a member of Legio Maria. Stop it. But that's a good swipe. Leo, anyway, Leo, I don't know what happened with Legio Maria, but the point I'm trying to make is this. We are human beings. We are thinking human beings. You know, you can, I would expect people to discern or think for themselves. If your leader is saying something that's unreasonable, even the Bible says, question, test these spirits, see which one is reasonable. You know, you have to test God, see what is he about. Is he real? So if you see this man every time we are having a handshake, since we are talking about handshakes, every elections he's having a handshake, then anawacha komata. If you keep on following him, then and you watch komata, we shall not feel sorry for you. You have to think for yourself. That's all that's the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
Robert Vincent, before you take your sorry, Kimanzi can wait. I know him. He's a gentleman. So Vincent, before maybe you drink that cup of water, you are speaking of something that you did not finish. So it will be unfair to allow you to go then come back. It will interfere with your flow of thought. So if you can proceed, I think that will be in order if you're comfortable doing that at this moment.
Okay. I wasn't gonna leave. I was just gonna be here and be listening so that as I finish taking a meal, I'll come back. But anyway, let me say the following. The reports that you were reading here before, and I listened to them, all of them. I was in the background. I was preparing my dinner. I listened to all of them, and I understand that we all know how politicians play their game. I am a politician myself. I know there's been a lot of heat here in Kisii for the past 1.5 months, and that politics has been putting me away also, because I had some things I was also working on, and I had to also be in Nairobi so that I can also work on some things. But these reports that these politicians make, these reports are mere papers that are supposed to keep those people you are calling followers busy. I personally am not a follower of anyone. I support objectively what William Ruto does, and I disagree objectively, because from that man I've learned a lot. But from him also, there are things that I feel like if I was William Ruto today, I could have done much better than him, because there are things I feel like you don't have to do them, but because of politics and because you want to make some people happy, you have to sacrifice the genuineness that you are. Like, I know William Ruto is genuine from his heart that I want to do some things, but the moment William Ruto tried to do something that goes against the agreement that Raila made with him, Raila Odinga is never ashamed of telling his followers that that's why sometimes I wonder what these followers are, and I wonder what these guys are given. Because if William Ruto decides today that me naruka deal, no, amue mi naruka deal, hiyo jinga ya kusalimiana amue tu I'm going to kuruka Raila. Raila Odinga is never ashamed, because he knows his supporters are like cows. They just take directions from him directly. Anawaambia tuende left, they don't even ask what is on the left side, they just follow. That's why I feel like if Ruto decides today that he wants to do the right thing, Raila Odinga will ban this country because we can't even arrest him, because his supporters. The supporters have been meant and have been twisted to believe that Raila is untouchable. No. That's why I ask God that this position of AU comes as soon as possible, so that this guy just goes. We want another regime of politicians. We want us, the young men and young women, to lead this country and to tell people the truth. We want the president to have a working environment that is constitutional. He's forced to do unconstitutional things because the politicians that are supposed to be observing and objectively opposing him are pushing him to make the mistakes that he's making. Of course, they are not pushing him to pass the housing agenda, but I'm meant to understand that even this housing agenda, these politicians are negotiating to be given contracts. They are not objectively opposing it because it's bad. It's because they are not part of the beneficiaries of the taxpayers' money. You see. So even these people that call themselves so genuine that they go on TV and insult other politicians, those people, they just do that for the media. But when they are with Raila, they coil their tails. I can tell you, Sifuna is a very, very eloquent and very, very energetic young man. But the moment Raila coughs, you saw him with Gachagua the other day. So he's also one of those puppets that I can't even allow to take over from Raila because those people don't have the balls to stand up to Raila Odinga. In Rift Valley, we've seen some guys are standing up to Ruto, and that's the kind of things that I expect people to do to Raila. But the people fear him like he's some god, and that's why we've been making mistakes now and again. We will continue trying to change the constitution that he himself, Raila Odinga, proposed to the people and told the people that this constitution will sort all our problems. But right now he's busy telling us that BBI will change, and article will sort out the problems. The problems will not be problems because Raila is the loser or because they are affecting Raila Odinga. The problems and the constitutional reform will only come, as the Kenya Revolution said, the constitutional reforms will only come from us, the people, not the politicians. Not even a member of parliament can propose something, and I agree with that because those politicians all are for hire. What they work for hire. Ruto, you saw what Uhuru did. Uhuru and Raila, after while he realized that this thing is going to be declared unconstitutional, they looked for Junet Mohammed and they put him as the people the proponents of BBI. That's how the politicians behave. So, okay, I know even Kenyans. If William Ruto decided or Raila Odinga decided to use one Kenyan to propose constitutional reforms and start the process, Raila Odinga can hire someone because we Kenyans also are very, very foolish. We only do things that politicians want us to do. We don't do things that our minds want us to do. We cannot even oppose a bill projectively. We can't even oppose a bill because we know this bill is bad. In fact, you might find that the housing bill is not bad, but because the Raila has not said it's good, we all think it's bad. And because it's Ruto who is proposing it, we all think it's bad. Maybe I know even the issue of Haiti is one issue that I rarely want to talk about. But maybe even the issue of Haiti should not be something problematic. But because Raila Odinga is silent, now William Ruto will move ahead with it because there's nobody who's going to speak on behalf of us. You see? So I think we Kenyans are like, of course, our democracy has developed and we have improved more than other countries in Africa. But we still have a long way to go as a people. The only thing that I wish that we as people do is make sure that we strengthen those institutions that we believe that are a bit fair. Najua kuna zingine hata ukijaribu kuzisaidia hazisaidika, but I believe that there are those institutions that we can improve on, especially the judiciary. The judiciary, we can improve on their freedom of doing things. We can improve on how the EACC operates. We can improve. Achana DCI, those guys are criminals. I don't know if they look for me, but I believe that the DCI, those people are criminals, and they have demonstrated to us in the past that the operations are called from State House. But the EACC also, with these independent organizations, the IBC, we can improve on IBC. IBC has demonstrated to us that it can be independent. We can improve on IBC. We can improve on EACC. But the parliament, the moment we vote based on who gives you how much money, we're not going to change anything in legislation. We are going to remain in that problem forever. Not only in Kenya, at America. The problem of legislation will always be the majority party will always have their way, and the minority will always have their say. And that's what we, our people, as the people, legislated to our constitution blindly. Even when William Ruto and other people were telling us in 2010 that this constitution that you guys are passing is going to kill you. And I'm happy that the person who was at the front line proposing it lost in the same election, that he wanted to make a constitution that will crucify William Ruto, a constitution that could crucify Uhuru Kenyatta and his team. But in real sense, the constitution turned against him. That's how a law is. When you make a law, make sure you look at the forward and the backward. Wanasemanga sheria ni msumeno. Ukiunda sheria ikate mwingine, hata wewe kuna siku itakufikia. So I think Raila Odinga made that mistake, and he will live to regret it. And he will live to regret why he proposed that constitution. He can't show you, but he's seriously regretting, why did I propose this constitution? Why do I have to be the loser in everything that I propose? It's because I believe if you are educated and if you are smart and if you went to school, you can do your mathematics, you can calculate and know that if I keep on making my followers happy, if I keep on doing things in the same way all the time, and my results are always the same all the time, I'm not gonna change anything. I think Raila should now leave this team that he is with and try to focus on his life. Maybe retire from politics, allow other people to also emerge and make the same mistakes that he's made, so that they can also learn. Because William Ruto has learned from the past mistakes. I'm sure if he's doing some mistakes right now, he is also not doing it at goodwill. And I know if I were William Ruto today, I could try to do things differently. I hope he'll do things differently going forward, which is not easy to do when you have supporters of Raila Odinga. Because if the Nadico report could collapse at some point, Raila Odinga will tell his supporters that alituruka on, and the people will believe him, and utaona watu wa Jacaranda wamerudi huko, and we will go back to tear gassing people. So I believe going forward, and I want to say this as my last remark as I go to eat, and I want to take the shortest time so that I can join you again. I want to say that if we were to interpret the Constitution as it is, let's understand chapter 1 of the Constitution, where we, the people, are given the absolute power to call the shots, but we don't know how to call them. We only think that you have to go to the streets to call the shots. No, that's not the only way. There are a lot of ways that are stipulated in the Constitution. The same thing you are doing in this forum. This is what our Constitution allows us in chapter 1, and in that that's how we are going to try and educate our people. That's how we are going to put people behind us. That's how we are going to pull masses behind us, so that we can be at the front line in leading a revolution. A revolution we can lead is by electing out those quacks in parliament, making sure that those MCAs in county assemblies that we put. But I have a problem with the county assemblies, because there is no county that elects MCAs that are educated, that are I think 40% of the MCAs went to school and finished Form 4 and even went to campus. The rest are just those popular border guys that were chairmen of favorite governor in your area, the people who are elected MCAs. Some elected good leaders, but majority of the MCAs are very, very shallow in thinking. That's why governors will eat money, and no MCA will do anything. You see, you saw what happened to Kisii County the other week. There are silly things that were being moved around, and the case went as it went. And right now we don't have a deputy governor because of such kind of things. So I think there are a lot of things that we can address in the Constitution, and we can only use chapter 1 to do that. And that's the only way we can do it. But if a politician wants to tell us that he can lead a revolution, I'm not going to buy that, because a politician will only take people to the streets to fight for his own interests. I thank you, and I'll be back in a few minutes.
Zalendo.
Yeah. Hey, how are you, man?
Yeah, you're next.
A long time. I was just wondering, have Chelsea moved on top of the table, or they're still sitting on number 10?
Who?
So
Chelsea?
where were you watching Chelsea, Mzalendo? Oh, okay. Were you following? Black is also
No,
here. Black. It's long time.
you know
We've not
the
seen
gaps
Black.
that
Huh?
the guts that Kenya revolutionary comes within on the stage, you'd think that there is an Arsenal fan who is sitting on top of the table.
Not sitting on
Arsenal is
top of the
not going
table.
to win.
Arsenal is waiting for the crowning.
Saka is injured, so your story is over. But let's go back to Raila.
Forget about Saka getting injured. Chelsea, the only thing you can do ni kufunga nywele. So can we continue?
Now,
Black
Leo,
is
do you know that you have
What?
Bayern Munich in Alliance Arena? You have Thomas Muller and Agnesaj Gnabry.
I just want to take this opportunity to also welcome wale wako pale. I can see Pen Nyagaka. Pen Nyagaka is there. Pen, karibu sana. We really want you to join the studio. Long time Black. I think the last time I saw Black having some active debate, it's really been long. It's good he's back, and today he's speaking a different language. Black is saying that going to Haiti shouldn't be Kenyan duty. So I'll share the studio link on the comment section so that people can join. People can join. We are here till morning. We are here till morning. So we are having a special. This is a special show actually.
Can I ask Mzalendo and my friend who I know he took a break? How do they feel about Ruto sending the police forces to Haiti? Even though it's illegal?
First and foremost, I know so many Kenyans are against police force going to Haiti. I am not against it. I am pro it completely because what is happening need food. Those gangsters are stopping food from reaching the families, and they are hijacking the food and asking for payment of that the same food that they are getting for free. So it depends on how you look at it. If you look at it in a humanitarian angle, then you'll be on my side. But if you look at it in a selfish angle, then you'll be thinking like you don't care about about your neighbor. It is just the same way we went into Somalia when the whole world was defeated with when Americans were defeated with Somalia. Today, Somalia has a transitional government. So why are you so afraid of Kenyan police force going to Haiti? After all, it's not the 1,000 force only going to Haiti. They are leading a delegation of the other troops to Haiti. And these are not your regular police going to Haiti. I see those police you see with an AK-47 walking in the streets and arresting people. No, these are the racist squad, trained in Russia and trained in the US. They are trained in combat, and they are trained in rescue. So they are going to rescue the people, the people of Haiti. There's nothing wrong with that, absolutely.
So even if it violates our laws, that's still okay. We are going to violate the law as long as we send people to Haiti. Our laws does not require.
If there is a law violation in it, then I think that is being addressed in Parliament. That should be addressed in Parliament. There is nothing.
No, the Parliament does not address any disputation by the law. It's the courts.
This is not the first time Kenya is taking peacekeeping forces to other countries. It is not. It is not.
That is true. That is correct. But it was illegal. Even when we sent police forces in Kosovo in the 1990s, it was illegal.
I believe there is always a way around it. Just like the housing levy, there is always somehow they can always amend the laws to enable the president or the country gets its way to sending troops to Haiti. There's nothing difficult about it. Yes, it can go to court. The court will say, the court will give you recommendation what needs to be done, and that's why we have the courts. The courts will dismiss it, but give you, hey, Mr. President, you need public participation in this. You need to amend this law so that the troops can go to Haiti. And remember, we have the UDA as the majority in both houses. So there's nothing difficult in that. It's just like we're playing musical chairs. But at the end of the day, the government will get its way. All right? I hope I. Hey, Blake. I saw somebody like Blake here. Hey, Mr. Blake, how are you, man? Blake. Our moderator has disappeared, or what am I seeing? Everybody has disappeared on the screen. Kenya Revolutionary. Are you still there? Blake. Blake, are you still there? I hope I answered some of your questions. Watu wameenda wapi?
Amekimbia. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what is going on with our moderator on the backstage. He's running up and down. But I have Black here. But Black has Black. Unajua Black. Can you hear me? What's going on? Kenya Revolutionary, can you hear me? Really? Hello? I think we have a technical glitch, but we'll be back shortly. I don't know what's happening here. Somebody is adding and removing people on stage. Who is this? A Penny. Penny Nyagaka, can you say something? Hello, Mr. Penny. Penny. Wait a minute.
Hello. Hey guys, sorry, what has happened? I think almost everybody has ran and oh, everyone has ran and left me behind. Let me share the link. These are some technical hinge that happened. Let me just share the link. Geoffrey Ruto, which law comes first when lives are being lost? Geoffrey, you need to join the studio and tell us why you're against Kenya sending some police force to Haiti, though the court declared it illegal. Though the court declared it illegal, you need to get back and tell us. So I've shared the link for the guys who maybe missed that link. I think you can use the link to join. Meanwhile, we are also sorry for what happened in Russia. That is the terror attack. I'll just play for you the video so that you can be able to see.
We're still on this breaking news out of Russia. That is the Crocus Hall, the music hall that is currently on fire. Russian media, the TASS organization, is reporting that the roof of this is partially collapsing as we speak. What we know is that it appears 3 gunmen, Russians are calling them terrorists, entered this concert hall, shooting on their way in, and inside the hall, killing multiple people. At least 40 people are dead, 100 are injured. That number is likely to go up. It is a massive emergency scene around this concert hall, as you can see by the sheer number of blinking lights out there, a number of ambulances. The Russians have said that their #1 task right now is to make sure that they get more survivors. Joining the conversation is founding partner and Washington correspondent at Puck News, Julia Ioffe, also one of our favorite Russia guests, knows a lot about the country. Julia, the spokesperson for Ukraine's military and intelligence agency called the shooting a deliberate provocation of the Putin regime, which the international community has warned about. What do you make of that coming from the Ukrainians?
Well, there's a lot of blame going around right now when we know the least about who is behind this. Dmitry Medvedev, who you remember used to be the president of Russia, he was a kind of liberal darling who led Russia through the reset under President Obama, has just come out and said that, you know, if Ukraine is behind this, then they deserve a massive retaliation. He said, a death for a death. People are pointing fingers all over the place, but we don't know a lot. We've also seen the Ukrainian government come out and say that they have nothing to do with this. The White House has echoed this and said they haven't seen any evidence suggesting that the government in Kiev has any connection to this attack. But Maria Zakharova, who's the spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, has shot back and said, you don't know anything. It could be the Ukrainians. And I also see a lot of friends and people I follow on social media in Russian talking about how this might be, in fact, a provocation by the Russian security services. Ambassador McFaul mentioned that the 1999 terrorist attacks on residential buildings in Moscow, where hundreds of people were killed in their sleep when these residential buildings exploded in the middle of the night, that was how Putin came to power. And it has been a long-standing theory that Putin and the FSB were actually behind those attacks, and that he used them to crack down and seize power. A lot of people didn't believe that theory, of course, until Putin didn't go into Ukraine 2 years ago. So, of course, a lot of people are now deeply suspicious. People who don't approve of the Putin government or what he's doing are now deeply suspicious and think that this might be yet another, whether the Russian government is behind this or not, that this might be used as a pretext to close the borders, call up a massive mobilization of the country, which Putin has been loath to do at this point, and to crack down on any remaining freedoms.
Yeah, again, we don't know who's behind this, and I appreciate the insight into what people are speculating about. I wonder, though, when you're talking about how the Russian government might use this this tragedy to their advantage, when we've seen incidents in the past that have happened within Russia, Vladimir Putin has gone harder on Ukraine, used it to strike harder on Ukraine. Might that happen, Julia?
That absolutely might happen, which is.
Okay, guys, that is just to remind you of what happened in Russia. It's really sad that the acts of terrorism are still experienced in the world in this kind of century, when people are believed to should have been more civilized. So we really condemn with the strongest terms or strongest words possible what happened, and we need to join hands as the entire world community and ensure that we strongly oppose and fight against terrorism, because these terrorist activities have really led to loss of lives, loss of properties, and have really destroyed countries. Even here in Africa, we have countries like Somalia that have really been under terror attack for the last 30 years. So back to the country, I know there's some technical issues, and some of our moderators or the panelists could not be able to have a control of the studio. I'm really sorry and apologize for that. So if you so wish to join the studio, I think I've shared the link. You can use this. Now everything is in control. I can be able to control it. Mr. Black, welcome. Join the studio. We'll get back. Good year. Just welcome. Okay. Such kind of things happen, but yeah, I'm glad I'm back in control and I'm back in position. Maybe if I just have to go through some of the comments that you people left. Geoffrey Ruto said that Raila is headed to the AU, but his fellow old man is in the village full of depressions. I don't know which kind of man Geoffrey Ruto is talking of. These politicians are wicked and we should not follow them blindly. But that's what happens. In Africa, people follow politicians. It's not politicians who follow people, but people follow politicians, whether blindly or not blindly, any instruction that I give. So there's something that is happening in the western part of this country. There's a war between the National Assembly Speaker, that is Moses Masika Wetangula, and the governor of Franzoia, that is Natembeya. So I don't know what is happening there. I'll just play a short video, then we'll be able to weigh on it. I'll play a short video and we'll be able to weigh on it.
Gospel ya poverty Trans Nzoia ishindwe. Mambo ya kuambia sisi and blessed are the poor for they shall see the kingdom of God. Sisi yo tumekataa. We have refused. Tumesema tunataka kuona ufalme wa mbinguni, lakini ufalme ya dunia lazima tuione pia. You can't suffer for 90 years hapa wakati unakufa hata una nguo. Mtu anakuambia ndivumilie utaenda mbinguni. Hakuna. Na bishop mwenye anaongea hapa at the poor ako na gari anaendesha Mercedes Benz. So mambo ya glorify poverty tumefanya nini? And boss, mimi nikiongea hivi kuna viongozi wengine sasa walali. Wanafikira tunataka kuja kuchukua uongozi yao. Mimi na focus kwa watu ya Trans Nzoia. Lakini mtu akileta mdomo mingi Trans Nzoia pia tutaenda huko kwao. Ama namna gani? Kuna wengine wamesahau Mungu huko Bungoma. Wako na Yesu huko. Hadi wako na Yesu bwana, wako na Yesu ya Tongareni huko. Hadi pia wako na Pope. Hadi wako na Papa ya Roma huko. Watu wanafanya watu wa Luya tunakuwa watu wa brand of jokes everywhere. Hata ukienda mimi ndio Nairobi kule, wakizia natoka West ndio habari ya Yesu ya Tongareni. We just become like all jokers. And they are happy kufanya hizo vitu. Hao ndio viongozi ambao tuko nao. Viongozi ambao maisha yao yote hajawahi kusacrifice anything for anybody. Viongozi ambao wanatueja, niwaambie watu wetu, hii freedom ambayo watu wanaona watu wanaongea hivi. Kuna mtu ambaye alisimama akaambia Moi was larger than life. Moi alikuwa kila mahali. Moi alikuwa ameweka intelligence kwa manyumba za watu. Unaishi na bibi, kumbe anafanya na intelligence. Unaongea tu maneno na bibi, ikifika asubuhi askari wamekufikia. Ala mama anakuambia, unajua mzata hii ukuta iko na masikio. Na kumbe masikio ni yeye. Lakini kuna watu waliambia mzee Moi, enough is enough. We want our freedom. Lazima tuongee, si ndio? Sasa hata mimi nikisema papa ya Roma ameingiza watu yetu kwa mtambo, kwa umaskini, iko watu wanakuja waniambia kwamba nisiongee. Wale hawa jamaa kama wangekuwa kina Muliro wakati huo, sisi tungepata independence kweli? Hawa jamaa wangeambia mzungu aende kweli? Hawa kina Chikati wangekuwa napigwa kiboko na mzungu, alafu anaambia mzungu hiyo kiboko iko sawa sawa, ongeza ingine. Yaani unaogopa mtu mpaka unatetemeka tu. Sisi tumesema mambo ya ugandamiza watu wetu ili wa worship na tembe hiyo imekwisha. Nataka mkuwe na pesa. Hata ukitembea hapa town ukikanyaga mao nyanya ya mtu mnamalizania hapo. Hawa mama wa nyanya mnaona wanaimba hapa. Enda kanyaga nyanya yake hapa sasa town uone. Mtafikishana kwa polisi. Sisi hatutaki aibu. Ndio mnaona hii mambo ni ya kuweka pesa kwa mifuko. Sitaki kijana wewe uko na bibi, hapo na mzigo, unaona mama, mambo yanaendelea tu, inakuwa kubwa. Wakati mama anakuambia sasa mambo yameharibika usiku, unaanza kupigia na tembea simu hadi mama sasa mambo imekuwa mbaya. Tafuta gari ya kupeleka hospitali. Au mama anaenda kujifungua, kutoka hospitali unasema una pesa, una bill ya kulipia mama. Amekuzalia mtoto mwenyewe umezalisha. Unataka wanaume wengine wakuchangie mtoe mama kule, ni kama ukuchangie kuweka mtoto huko. Aibu. Aibu ya umaskini ndio hiyo. Hakuna aibu ya umaskini ambaye inashinda hiyo. Kutangazia dunia mzima kwa mama amejifungua na huwezi kumleta nyumbani. Hiyo ndio aibu mimi nataka kuondoa Trans Nzoia. Na watu wangu, hii maneno inatisha watu. Kuna watu ambao wanaamini kwamba uongozi yao lazima ashikwe na mtu atanaletwa hapa anasema huyu akuwe gavana na anasema basi ndio hiyo. Wale ambao wanaamini hiyo hawataki mambo ya kufanyia wananchi kazi. Hii maneno inawatisha sana. Mimi ni generali, niko mbele. Nyinyi ni soldiers. Nikiangalia nyuma mtakuwa mamutakuwa. Si mtakuwa. Hii mambo hii mahali imefikia ni kama ile ndege iko runway karibu ina take off. Huwezi kuisimamisha. It either takes off or it crashes. We are not ready to crash. Tumeelewana? Watoto tumeelewana? Na nyinyi wacha niwaambie. Kuna watu ambao wanasifanya kwamba hao ndio wanaongoza Western huko. Western region iko na mabunge karibu 45. Ford Kenya iko na bunge 5. ANC iko na bunge ngapi? 5. Hao wengine wao kwa chama gani? Watu wako kwa UDA, wako kwa Jubilee, wako kwa DAP, wako kwa Independent, wao wanaongoza nini? Ukienda Nyanza ujumbe wote wako kwa ODM. Ukienda kule Mount Kenya wote wako kwa UDA. Na kuna mtu ambaye anaongoza. Hii yetu inaongozwa na nani? Yetu hii inaongozwa kwa nani? Ili siku tukisema watu ya Western, na Western ni jamii zote za Kenya, tunaenda kwa meza. Nani anatupeleka kwa hiyo meza? Saa hizi nani anatupeleka kwa hiyo meza? Wale viongozi ambao wanajifanya kwamba wao ni wanaongoza sisi. Speaker hapo tuna kura moja ambayo ni ya muhimu. Ile imewekwa kwa kiti, only one vote. Inaitwa vote ya the president of Kenya, ndiye amemweka hapo. Leo hii akiamuka aseme I've got change of mind, I want a different speaker. Kama housing levy jamaa ko home. Nyinyi kweli mnataka kuongozwa na pilot ya aina hiyo? Na watu wetu viongozi wanafuatanga wananchi. Mali wananchi wanataka kwenda, viongozi wanaendanga huko. lakini sisi kwetu mnataka kwenda wapi? Mnajuanga kweli? Lazima provide direction na mkatae ushenzi ya watu. Unaona tu mwana anakupeleka tu kwa shimo na unaenda tu. Ulukwamo ohanili lori bilano. Sasa sisi hapo ndio tupo. Na nyinyi mnajua wakati Trans Nzoia inasambaratika na uongozi, the entire Western region inasambaratika na uongozi. Watu wanapotea tu, wengine wanaenda huko, wengine wanaenda huko. Mtu asikudanganye uingie kwa nyumba ya mtu. Maana wakati wanagawana mali wanaulizanga hii nyumba imeleta nini? Wewe mara huko kwa hii, mara huko kwa hii, mara huko kwa hii. You just ignored.
Na sisi jamii yetu kusema kwamba mambo ya kuworship watu tulitoka huko. Ati mtu akipita hapa sisi wote tunatetemeka hivi ati Papa wa Roma. Papa wa Roma kitu gani? Popu ni moja. Popu ya Kenya ni moja peke yake. Ukianza kusema wewe ni popu na uko na bibi mbili, hiyo ni makosa bwana. Papa wa Roma ni mimi, ni Mkatoliki, is just one. So mkianza kujipatia matitles ya kuogopesha sisi, ya kutisha sisi, hizo tuanza hiyo kwa sisi hakuna.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me take this opportunity to apologize for what happened. It's quite unfortunate. You know, these things are matters that are controlled. These things, the digital things, you know, sometimes they get us with surprise. So it's unfortunate that all of a sudden there was nobody, maybe, who could be able to take control, but finally I've managed to get back, and we are back, and the conversation continues. What is happening? I know Goodia is asking what happened during the funeral. Goodia, I'll explain that actually. I'll even play for you the video. That is what I want us to look at next. I also want to take this opportunity. I'm glad that so many people are really watching and have joined, and I hope they've subscribed to Afrique 24-hour TV. I take this opportunity to officially welcome Costa. Costa, karibu sana. Hapa ndio tumejificha. What we normally do here, we just do Kenyan politics, clean politics, irrespective of your affiliation. We no longer complain, but you're trying to weigh in what happens politically, and we also try to come up with some of the solutions. So that is what keeps us here. I really appreciate that you've taken your time to watch, and as a new viewer, I really welcome you, and I'm sure you've subscribed to Afrique and you've shared with the friends and relatives so that they can also be able to share. So, Goodia, what I'm asking now, there's something happening in the Mulembe nation. There is a certain rift. I don't know if it is a rift or it's an awakening moment for the Mulembe nation. There is something happening between the governor and Mtembea and Weta. And if I take it literally, the Trans Nzoia governor, Natembea, have declared war against poverty, war against worshipping leaders, war against Ford Kenya, and war against one Masika Moses Wetangula. He claimed that Wetangula have really been intimidating the people of Western, specifically the Bukusu, to a point that they worship him. They think if it is not Wetangula, it's nobody. If you go back to the politics in Bungoma or Bukusu, just get back to 2013, when the 2010 constitution was first implemented in the elective position. Wetangula had a close run with somebody, sorry, I'll get the name. And in that case, Wetangula was accused. Yeah, Wetangula was accused of mismanaging or something. He was accused of bungling the 2013 senatorial election in Bungoma, in Bungoma, and there are so many people who lost lives. So people are saying that Wetangula have been using violence for so long. You've been using violence for so long to intimidate the opponents and to ensure that he remains the senator or a stated quo in Bungoma. And now they're saying Natembeya is out to wipe him. So what is happening? Will Natembeya really manage to unseat Papa Waroma? When people talk of the 2022 elections, Wetangula is mentioned to have been the person who made the difference. They talk of that 200,000 difference, and they're saying that it is because of the Bukusu, or specifically those from Bungoma, overwhelmingly voted for Wetangula and his presidential candidate, that Raila lost. I don't know your view. You can use the comment section there to give me your view if you think that is true, because you know that Wetangula had his election in 2013 disputed actually, and he contested against somebody called Muskari Kombo, and some things happened. There is a lawyer who represented Muskari Kombo in that election petition, and the day that Wetangula's election was nullified, the next day that lawyer was brutally killed. And people say that Wetangula was responsible, something like that. He'd been using some former Ford Kenya goons. So the question that I'm asking is, this gentleman called Natembeya going to sweep the Wetangula wave and unite the Mulembe nation? If you've listened to him, he declared war against poverty, ignorance, Ford Kenya, and Wetangula in irrespective order. So he's fighting Wetangula, he's fighting poverty, he's fighting Ford Kenya, and he's also fighting ignorance in Mulembe nation. So as I welcome my brother Hillary, Gudia is saying that George Natembeya ruffles feathers. Where he goes, there is trouble. His speech leads to one thing: he is organizing himself for future leadership. Okay, people also arguing that he's also organizing himself for future leadership, because if you look at him, he's playing that kind of aggressive politics. He's one man that came from nowhere, from public service, you know where he was, and managed to become a governor. He's somebody who was underrated. Nobody knew that Natembeya will become a governor. He surprised people with the kind of crowd that he was able to attract. And I think for God's sakes, but by good luck on his side, he managed to win. He managed to translate that crowd into vote. So I'll leave that one for people from Western, or people who understand the politics of Western, maybe to talk of it. So welcome, Hillary. I think in your absence, we really looked at several things. We were looking at the Handshake Chronicles, how we've been having handshake in this country. We also looked at the fact that Raila has always remained the constant factor in all the handshakes. And we are looking at how these handshakes have benefited Kenyans and the politicians who've been part of the handshake. We started by looking at the handshake between Raila and Kibaki, whereby they came up with something that was called National Accord, that had some 8-point agenda: the creation of the Prime Minister and 2 deputies. That is, the Prime Minister being the person who by then held the majority of the seats in the National Assembly. That was the ODM party appointing a deputy, and the Prime Minister on the other side, the deputy Prime Minister being appointed by the President. And after that, we saw the cabinet got expanded so that this other side would get 50, the other side would get 50. We saw another handshake between Raila and Uhuru. They came up with something called BBI. You know the proposals that while BBI, I don't want to go into it. It did not see the light of the day because of the kind of opposition, and being that we had a new constitution, people were able to go to court and challenge it. And right now, we are presuming that there's a handshake between Raila and William Ruto, though they don't need to shake hands, but there's a working collaboration. If you look at the rate at which the opposition, not the opposition, but the minority side have slowed down their opposition level, it tells you there's something cooking. They came up with something called NADCO, NADCO also proposed the same thing. So the NADCO, National Accord, and the BBI, same document, different pages, different title, different players. So I just want you to weigh on them in randomly without following any specific order. Then we can also come up to what is happening in Western. There's something so serious that is happening in Western. The Western politics is really shifting as fast as possible. And right now, Mudavadi and Wetangula are worried men. And you also need to take in consideration also the issue of Nakumicha, who also hails from Trans Nzoia. She vied for women rep, lost. She's now a CS health. Today she said that people are fighting her because of jealousy, because she really lowered the NHIF from 500 to 10 and such kind of things. So karibu Bwana Hillary, and you can proceed.
Asante sana leo, habari ya leo lakini.
Salama salmini.
Nashukuru bwana, nashukuru na thank you so much for hosting this having this platform for us to get information and also to give our mind what we think or what we see. But first of all, I want to thank God for this day. Number two, I want to thank Harambee Stars for winning 4 goals for nil. We are seeing our national team is coming up, and that is a good thing that we need to talk about even the sports. And we are seeing our young people doing well in Malawi. Congratulations to them. Coming to your question, the 4 or the last 3 handshake, being Raila the constant factor, that is a good thing. It shows the consistency of a person, and is a person that is not being swayed here and there. I think that is a good character, in the sense that he believed what he believed, and he believed that the peace to be there and the things to happen, we must get involved, which I think it brings something that maybe some people will see that it's chaos, but I think that it brings something that the government should be inclusive, because the government is not for one person, but the government is for everybody. The government should entail everybody. So I think Raila bringing something that we don't see. As much as you win, as much as you steal the election, or no matter how you win it, you need to incorporate everybody. And that's what we call handshake. We see what happened during Kibaki and Raila. Raila won the election, and everybody knows. And you see what was happening. So Kibaki agreed to bring Raila on board and working together. We have seen several changes in the country during Kibaki ruling time. Most of that time when Raila was prime minister is when we see the Thika Road came up. He's the one who drafted the Thika Road super highway. We didn't have superhighway anywhere. We have seen so many government lands were being returned. We saw even his brother Uhuru himself, who built in Kisumu. During that time, his building was taken down. I know many people doesn't know that, but so we are seeing so many things that were happening during that time. During Uhuru, we are also seeing so many things that are happening. The handshake bring at least cohesion in the country. Everybody can be in peace. Everybody can go wherever they want. So all this handshake, they have something. And now 2020, and now what we're seeing between Ruto and Kibaki, it is the same thing, but also is bringing bare fruits, because we are seeing peace. We are seeing dollar is coming down. We are seeing Baba want to go to AU. This is the thing for our country, because we are seeing we have never have that position as a country. So this thing is not for Raila, but also for the whole country, because getting that post, it is Kenya. It is the name of Kenya. At least we have in the book of records that one time our person was the AU chairperson in that country, and maybe it has some goodies that will come out of it. So those are things. They have been good, and also they are bringing changes, because we are seeing constitution is coming. During Kibaki time, we saw the constitution being changed and everything, and that one is a good thing. The constitution has been there somewhere, and we said even now we are seeing some policies that are being implemented, some are being even laws, which is a good thing to the country. It is not only for them, but even for the future, the leaders who are coming in, who will come after them, because these people will not be there forever. That's what we forget. But what can we learn? What should we learn on all these things that is happening? We should learn that is our country moving to the right direction. I think yes, because when we have a better constitution, that one is a help you, Leo. When tomorrow you be a leader, you be a leader whereby the constitution is being followed, where the laws are being are there already for you, not you struggle. So all this struggling, I think, is just to make law to work for the Mwananchi, or to Mama Mboga, or to they're calling Iko, you know. So all this thing is just a good thing for the whole country. So naona ni sawa na si mbaya kurudi kwa natembea. I think natembea.
No, before you go to Natembea, Hillary,
yes,
I think you've talked of the positive parts of this kind of handshakes that have happened in this country. They've ensured there's some harmony and business, and they've also showed Kenyans that, okay, you know, this government belongs to all of us. And in each of every handshake that has happened, we've always seen a mutilation of the constitution, or an attempt to mutilate the constitution, or to make some changes to the constitution. Save for the 2008, because we were having an old constitution, they had to incorporate the National Accord 2008 into the constitution. And one of the recommendations in the Kriegler report was that we try and have a new constitution, and that is something that was birthed when we inaugurated the 2010 constitution that we are having currently. In 2018, that is 10 years later, when Raila shook hands with Uhuru, there was an attempt to bring the BBI, and BBI proposed to interfere with, or to mutilate, or to change some parts of the 2010 constitution, though it didn't see the light of the day. The same is also happening with the NADCO report. Like when you talk of the position of the leader of opposition, that is something that is not within our constitution. The prime cabinet secretary of the prime minister, as some may call it, is not in our constitution. Don't you see that this is an abuse to our constitution, or does it call for a constitutional moment so that we can review our constitution and put these things under the constitution? Is this on what is being communicated?
I don't think this is, we should call it mutilation, because mutilation is like we are destroying or we are doing what. I think is not that way. But remember, there's no any day that constitution will be 100%. Why this is happening? One, when Kenya gets the when we get the when we 1963, when we get our country as a Kenya and start running things, people are how many millions? People are very few. By the moment, we have 51 million people, or 47 million. I think for the last census, they're saying we have 47 million. You see, the country is growing, and when it is growing, one thing we need to agree that everybody wants to be a leader, as much as all of us cannot be a leader. So this constitution, we are seeing is being mutilated, is that to accommodate everyone, to have a area that we can accommodate everyone. I don't think it just happened that because we are growing, we are becoming bigger in number and everything. And this one, everybody should feel part and parcel of it. And that, I think, is really secure our country, because if we leave other people out, and you remember what Raila has been fighting for, whether you're coming from the smallest region or tribe or language, name it, you need to be seen as a Kenyan. But as a Kenyan, what has been happening is that you being and this, we talked, I think we talked about this thing sometimes back, that we have been evaluated according to our population. You're a Luo, you're coming from this, then we check how many people are coming from that region. You're a Luya, you are a Kikuyu, these are the things that, so we are asking that when Mijikenda will be a president, if we go with the same constitution, where will they will be a president, or when will they be even in the government? There will be no time if we go with the constitution. But changing of the constitution, adding some few things, we are seeing these people are being incorporated in the leadership, which is good for everybody. So everybody should feel part and parcel of what? Of the government, because that's the role of the government. The role of the government is to take care of the everybody who's living in Kenya or everybody who's living in that country. So it means that everybody should participate, but not other people. So this has been happening, and you've seen.
Yes, Pen. Okay, Pen, just a minute. I'll get to you.
Pen, how are you?
Let Hillary wind up, and Hillary, on the matter of Natembeya, will move next. Just wind up on this, then
Okay,
we'll bring in.
So my point is that. Yeah, Leo, my point is, I want in brief. My point is that what is happening is good for our country, because every tribe should have a position in the government, that I believe so that they should be part and parcel of the government and what is happening. So I think changing all these things, it's just helping the country. And I think Honorable Raila has been fighting for this, everybody. And sometimes back he was saying that even somebody who's coming to the Ogiek community should also have a portion in the government. And if possible, they also should come up and be a president of the country. So I think that this constitution, I just are trying to amend it and accommodate everybody is a good thing for me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Hillary. I get you, and I'll come back to you next. Maybe not now, because you've talked of something like you also feel that there should be a time when Ogiek or the smallest communities can be president. Somebody once proposed something called rotational presidency, whereby we say, okay, Akikuyu have been a president, then next, we don't need to see Akikuyu being a president, we can give it to this community and such kind of things, which when you look at it is also against the rights, people having political rights. Nobody should stop you from contesting simply because you're a Kikuyu, or simply because you're a Luo, or simply because you're a Taita. I'll come back to that one next. So let me welcome Pen. I know Pen have lived and he is best positioned to talk of the handshakes that happened during the Mois and Kenyatta's. Some of us might not be able to talk of them because we didn't live to see them. So Pen, we've been having this kind of handshakes. Do you think we still need to be holding elections? Then after elections, then we say now, the person who contested and the person who maybe became second now sit somewhere and say that we now agree to work together, think together, and not to oppose each other. Why do we need to have elections in Kenya if these things can be solved through this kind of handshakes and agreements? Why can't we just have a consensus somewhere called Wazee and they sit down and say, okay, this time let Ruto rule, and they work together with Raila and such kind of things?
Hey, Leo, habari ya jioni. Habari yenu vijana.
Tuko
Thank
salama
you very
kabisa.
much.
Salama sana. Uko namna gani? Kwani unalala?
Hapana, nimeamuka.
Umeamushwa, lakini uko kwa giza kweli kweli, inaonyesha unalala.
Ndio, lakini yangu niko contribute kwa Leo Nyabaya na huyu kijana mwingine. Leo ni kweli sisi tumekaa for a long time in Kenya and elsewhere in the world, but it is a very, very interesting time that we live in today. Some of us remember when Mzee Oginga Odinga was defeated by Moi, but we all knew that he stole the elections. Lakini by that Thursday or Friday, Oginga Odinga took Moi to Kisumu. And a lot of people were seriously mad, but Mzee Oginga said that if the IBC, the type of IBC, elected this guy as the president and announced him as a president, he is the president. And then it continued from there. But to come to this day today, the handshakes, those are really, really primitive ideas as far as we are concerned. The handshakes are primitive. Sio maandamano. That is even more naivete, because the constitution that was written into 2010 is one of the best constitutions. Let those who win the elections govern the country, but those who lose the elections have their say and stay outside the government and give us ideas as to how they will beat the present government to take over from them. There was nowhere in the constitution of Kenya that was envisaged a handshake. What's a handshake for? It's only 2 people agreeing or 3 people agreeing. But yes, one of these person had like 50%, 49%, and the other one got 50%. That's all over the world. Say, for example, Israel or United States, elsewhere. They don't have a handshake. They stay outside and fight for their ideas to govern the country in the future. So that's what we were concerned with when Madi Shukuku, when George Anyona Mosetti, when everybody, when Abuya Abuya Uzmanko were agitating for the multi-party system. They were not agitating to have a handshake. They were not agitating to have a handshake or anything of that form. They were agitating to say that, yes, you are in the government today, Moy, but we will do better the next time. We'll take over this government. We'll show you what freedom means, what we will want to do. Yangu si kusema mingi sana, wacha nimalizie hapo niseme na kwamba leo vile umesikia vile umeona nimekuwa Kenya kidogo na nimerudi. I was a die-hard UDA person, but
Yes,
I've really
Toboa Siri. Make a declaration.
but I've really loosened up because when the gentleman Ruto was saying that bottom-up economics, I was telling you guys today, earlier that time, that the bottom-up economics will not work if corruption is there. But now going visiting Kenya and accompanying people to the police stations and seeing everything that is going on. You sit around the corner somewhere in the afternoon, the police come through and they're looking for Kido. And that is in itself corruption. And it has really loosened me up from UDA to be really independent. And Leo Wambia the other day, I've been kicked out from the ODM or Asimio groups, forums. I've been kicked out, even more practical, in other forums. When I disagree with somebody like Omoro, they say P.S. Omoro is doing a wonderful job at this and that. But it is his ministry that is the most corrupt in the whole country. And you cannot say that if you are really a UDA person. If you are really a UDA person, you cannot point that out. That's a weakness. If we have to have those kinds of weakness, my friend, the generations, now it's really my grandkids that are really, that are coming up. The generations of people, your generation that is coming up will not go anywhere with corruption being that high. If we have to live a better system or a better society, we have to crash this corruption. Be it small, be it big land, come Margaret Wanjiru, be it anybody. Of course, the president's hotel in Western Hotel, we have to ask to know how did he get this and how many people of his type that have had this and are keeping them. If we don't, then we should have a direction, a clear direction as to how we will rule this country from now to maybe 2027, 2032 and beyond. But Leo, the bottom line, na lazima niendelee kusema hiyo all the time. The corruption is very, very high, and there is nothing. There is everything the gentleman said before. If we have to have that corruption that high, my friend, there is nothing that you will say that will save that country. It is going down. And you wonder, is this president giving a free visa for everybody to visit Kenya and see how horrible the system is? Everybody in the world is free to visit Kenya without a visa or whatever. But you cannot even drive in Nairobi unless you know the roads. The pumps are everywhere. It's just so corrupt. It's just so primitive and corrupt that the more years make it look even better because there were not too many cars, there were not too much population like it is today. But it continues today of what Moi started. And you go to the city of Nairobi, say, for example, the traffic was made for the 70s, but this is 2024, and the same traffic and the same roads. My friends, let us really open up our eyes to the reality of time and say that this is where we are going and this is where we have come from. Everybody in Kenya is very smart. Everybody is hustling, doing their jobs. Kutoka huko Kisii unapata ndizi nyingi, unapata everything that you could even live on. But how does that move from this place to the other? Hiyo ndio mbaya sana. So I've seen, and now I am going back in June, July, but I will have to, make my show of myself moving back to Kenya. But we have to point out the reality. In December, when I was in Uda Forum, I was kicked out. But today, for some reason, they have moved me back. But I have to point out the truth. The truth is still the truth. Corruption is so high. Thank you. Thank you, Rio.
Thank you, Penya Gaka. And maybe there's a question I'm going to ask you maybe later. Hillary, I was looking at this thing. I think when you joined, there was this video of what is happening in Western. Of late, I think each and every day, you've been hearing Natembeya talking about how he's going to economically liberate Mulembe nation from poverty. And if you're keen, he've declared war against poverty. He've declared war against this kingpinship and worshipping of leaders. He've declared war against ignorance, and he've declared war against Ford Kenya, and specifically declared war against somebody he calls Papa Roma, that is Moses Wasika Wetangula. So it has always been a war of words. And recently you saw what happened in a funeral. The funeral had to be terminated. What is not happening? And what are the effects of this kind of war? Wetangula is one of the longest serving elected leader in Western Kenya. And he's somebody who understands the Bukusu politics. Save for the late Kijana Wamalwa, he's somebody who understands the Bukusu politics to an extent that when he managed to do away with the Musikari combo in 2013 senatorial elections, he remained like a king of Bukusu, and the Bukusu listens to him. But things are changing. Natembeya seem to be a new wave, fresh blood. Natembeya haven't been in politics. When you look at Wetangula started his politics in Ford Kenya. Ford Kenya is a party that dominated in the 1990s, 1992, fought for the multi-party. The members like Jaramogi, Nyachae, and Matiba separated and parted ways, and it emerged to different parties. If you talk of parties like LDP, SDP, ODM, NDP, these were birthed from Ford Kenya. So that one tells you how long Wetangula have been in politics. Unlike Natembeya, who've just been a public servant, he's less than 3 years old in politics, but he's giving Wetangula sleepless nights. What do you think is the end game, Hillary?
Thank you so much for that question, Leo. And I want to say that what we are seeing is a good thing. To me, it's a very good thing that because politics doesn't matter how long have you been there. What matters to me, what have you been doing? What have you been doing for the people? It's not a matter you being a kingpin of a certain community, but you're doing nothing. Like Wetangula has been, we have seen his leadership. His leadership in Bukusu, he doesn't want anybody to come or to talk and to do everything. And now Natembeya is a good guy and he has a good strategy, and he realized that winning young people, that's what he's doing now. He doesn't care about those old people. He's now inviting all youths. You see, youths are following him and doing things. It means that there's something that Bukusu has been lacking, that Wetangula has not been providing. And Natembeya, being that in the public service, he understands a lot. As much as we've not seen him in the politics, he has been understanding all the tricks, everything that is happening in the politics. Remember, these people have been used in the politics, so they know. And he was in a senior position whereby he can analyze and knows everything, how everything's there. So when he was going for the governorial post He knows clearly. He knew what is happening there. He knows what people want, and that we are seeing his connection with people is really pushing Wetangula so far. And if Wetangula get a chance to be in the second term for these 5 years, he pushed it so well, we'll not see Wetangula. And remember, Wetangula is not now on the ground; he's in the senior position there. He's now forgetting to come down here. But Natembeya is here always, day and night. He's just within the Transia country, the county, whereby he's going here and there, making sure that he meets people every day. Is telling the truth. Is telling people what people want to hear. That's what the Bukusu is now getting. And if Natembeya can win Bukusu heart, and if not even all of them, but 3/4 of them, mark my word.
Yeah.
Natembeya is one of the leaders that in future will be the Luya leaders that the Luyas can count. He's a guy because he doesn't fear and he doesn't care whom you are and doesn't care with the position, but he's telling the people the truth. He's just telling people, we Luyas have been in this thing, but what are these people doing? What are we gaining on this thing? There's nothing. And that's why you see Luya community, we have so many tribes. Like, it's only Wetangula, it's only Bukusu actually is being voting as a block. It's only Bukusu. If you go to Samia, no. You go to even Maragoli, where Mudavadi himself is coming from, is ODM dominant. Even Mudavadi cannot be voting. Yes, with so it shows something. There's something is lacking. So we are seeing that zeal, and to me, that's what we want. Natembeya is still young, number one. Number two, he has a vision for his people and to the larger country. So he's a guy that maybe after being governor after 10 years, is the guys that maybe will come to national politics, which is good for Luyas and for our country. We need people who have zeal, people who look, who check the people who are down there. They are very important. Not that when you are in position because you are bigger there, and then now you think that you are big. No, I think he has been. Actually, you cannot even compare since Wamala Kijana died. You cannot compare Wetangula with Kijana Wamala because Kijana Wamala was doing a lot of things, was making Luya, and actually it tried even to the whole Luya community to combine them to at least bring them. What we are seeing with Natembeya, if he go on the way he's going, I want to assure you, after 10 years, is the guy that maybe we will look after Mudavadi, Wetangula, and everybody that can bring even 3/4 of Luyas as a whole, as a community, because his leadership skills, the way he does things, the way we are seeing that, the way he going to the office, time management, making sure everybody's on check, reaching out to young people, women on the ground, and everything. Go just check what that guy is doing on the ground. Is what people want. That's what we want. We want to people. What are people saying? Not what we are saying up here, but on the ground there. Those are the leaders that we want. We want to reach our villages. We want to reach people on the ground there, and that's what Natembeya is trying to do now. And this war that he's saying is not actually Natembeya. When he was talking about war, he was not talking about the physical war. And if you check so well, it is only these leaders who are big at bringing the physical war. The war that is being talking about is the war of poverty, war of people to get resources on the ground. The war that he's talking about, the war that let us not be witched, but let us be eye opener. Let us get all these things. Let us have a voice. Let us speak as a people, where that people doesn't have. In Bukusu, it has been like Kikuyu constituency, whereby only one person wants to speak. He doesn't want anybody. If you try to come up, they're gonna do it. So I think Natembeya is a good guy. To me, I'm supporting him. And if he continue that way, then even these old guys will realize that these young people are coming up in a good way to support young people and to create opportunity for them. Because Wetangula have never created an opportunity for anybody. We have not seen anything that they have done since Wamala Kijana gone. Nobody is just fighting.
Wetangula created opportunity. Immediately he got elected as the Speaker of the National Assembly. He took his PA, who was a former Swahili teacher, to replace him as a senator. Is that not creating opportunity?
No, that is having his own purpose. Whom did he? Apart from apart from that guy who was, just imagine Leo Your PA,
Yeah.
your PA, man, that is a trusted person. We want you to see taking young people from grassroots there, taking them to the somewhere. How many people have been employed through Angola? How many people? Go do your research. How many people have been employed through this guy? Not only his PA, it means a lot of things. Your PA is somebody that you are very, very close with, and you will notice this if you go get well and you go on the ground, you realize that this person maybe is relative of Angola. So those are the politics that we don't want.
I get you. Let me get some words from Pen Nyagaka. Pen, I know, despite the fact that you're maybe miles away from the country, but I like the fact that you normally follow what is happening in Kenya politically, and sometimes you also take time to come and interact with it physically. So I'm glad that you said that since you came to Kenya and met the Kitu Kidogo phenomenon that you normally see on the television, you interacted with it one-on-one. It has made you to change your perception on how you view some other things. And on the comment section, I can see Goodyear is asking you, Pen Nyagaka, are you still Ruto's supporter? I know you'll respond to that. But right now, I just want you to weigh on what is happening in Western. What is the end game? What do you think Natembeya is aiming at? Is he on his own, or there is somebody behind him? In a community I come from, there is this stubborn, slow animal called a tortoise. Some people call it tortoise. So they say when you find a tortoise on top of the table, there must be somebody who placed it there, because it can't be there on its own. So is this Natembeya the proverbial tortoise that is on the table, and who placed Natembeya on top of that table? Bwana Pen.
No, Leo, Natembeya has not been in politics for long, but even if he was a provincial commissioner, he could speak stuff that were very clear to the common person. And some of us, as the previous speaker said, we really want the Natembeya for 2027, not in 2032, because this gentleman, for the next 2 years, I supported fully, and I thought that he understood what bottom-up economics meant. I found out that it's a total failure. That's when, like I pointed out in other forums, I've been kicked out. But to answer your question, Natembeya, some of us support him fully. Now he's the next guy we fall on to, because he has been speaking really what the common person understands. When I was in Kenya, he said that there was no police in Kenya. All this guy is head of Kome is heading something that he don't understand. We find that to be so true, because who are the police? What is the hierarchy of the police? What do they do? When Natembeya was pointing out, they don't do anything. They are just to say a name. And some of us really understood that coming to Kenya now, this time, Leo, is to open our eyes. It's not really, some of us are too old to be waiting for that long. Really, the previous speaker said, some of us want to see the change now, and then we leave the country, Leo Kwanyini, being very clear, putting the right direction. It's not necessarily like in Kuweka map America, Nico. When I was in Kenya, I ended up in Rwanda. Rwanda's system is more cleaner, is better than Kenya's that you can think of. The police don't even take the bribe, because if you take a picture of a police that's taking a bribe and you turn it in, they give you 5,000 Rwandan money for just taking a picture. For just taking a picture. So the police doesn't even take the bribe from you. I mean, if the bribe is there, it's very high or somewhere else. But in Kenya, it's corruption. And I've talked to the people in Uda, my friend Leo, and they say this is in crime. Do you think that Omoro doesn't know this? He knows it, but it will have to come to an end sometime. How can it ever come to an end if there is nobody giving a direction? If like your parents did say, go to school and work hard, go this and that. If nobody's giving you direction, how could you even solve that problems? So natembea vile umeuliza, some of us is a waking card for us. You know, natembea, that you see this guy like Kroso, if they come together, that will be the future of the nation. This is handshake, this and that. What the Ruto is doing, he's talking very highly. But then when you see the reality of what he's talking about, it's completely opposite. You know, everywhere Ruto goes, he talks very, very high. I mean, he makes very good marks. Lakini ukiona vile ametoka nyumbani kwao, is zero. How can you get 100 here and get zero the other side? So that, sasa waja niseme leo na kwamba to some of us who are not that hard ODM, we were only, I mean, UDA, we were only supporting UDA for points of ideas that they were espousing. Some of us knew, and I was telling you this before, if this bottom-up economics that raised Europe after Second World War, as raised, you know, Southeastern Asian countries, as raised, say, for example, China, the corruption has to be finished completely. Mtu akipatikana kama ni director ya anything in China and is said to be corrupt, he's not even charged to, he hung himself or he's hanged by the government. That's how serious corruption is taken. And until at the time that we take our corruption that serious, Leo, we are not going anywhere. We are just going to talk and talk and talk and talk around issues, talk about the handshake, mandamano. All these are just nonsensical ideas that don't make any sense. We cannot move one kid from their poor house to another, cannot do anything. But if you do away with that corruption, the money will end up in the right direction, and the money will hire the right people. You know, even kusafisha nyumba, even to look for your cows, because you did not spend that money giving the police for useless when he's going to buy nyama and drinks. So there's so many trickle down economics on the clean government versus a dirty government. I hope I answered your question.
I get you. Thank you. Let me just give it to Hillary. You can maybe somebody saying that good year. You have been absolutely incredible, and just try to step down and give you well-deserved high five. You are crushing it. Okay, good year. Some high five coming over there for you. We really appreciate you for always keeping it and ensuring that the comment section is lit, active, and interactive. So Hillary, maybe just as you wind up, or as we wind up, there are a lot that has happened this week. We've seen the doctors' strike. We've seen what is happening with the head teachers complaining that the money hasn't been remitted to the accounts. We've seen the threats from the Ministry of Finance trying to threaten the doctors instead of coming up with a solution. And of course, once again, the world has been hit by one of the most horrible terror attacks. What has happened in Russia that has claimed over 130 lives? Maybe if you just summarize and weigh on that, I'll really appreciate. And lastly, I'll also ask you, the president assented to the bill, the affordable housing bill, on Tuesday. Already there is a case that has been taken to court that is challenging the act. What is your view on that also?
Thank you so much, Leo. I think the doctors, it is so crazy that we are seeing how people are dying at the moment. I think they're doing a good job. They need to be paid. And what I want to say that we have less doctors in Kenya, where the government need to adjust. Apart from payment, I've been talking to some few doctors. They're saying that even the equipment is not there. The laboratories are pathetic, So these are the things that I think the government, the national government should work on and make sure, one, the ethics of work should be a good area of work. They have materials, they have equipment, they have everything. And then come to salary, it is important. And we see somebody is even graduating and then he being frustrated after graduation. He stayed like 7 years. He has never given a license to be a doctor. These are the things that we're seeing, that doctors should go to the road as much as they can, and they should not go to work, according to me, because we are seeing so many things happening. They are being threatened here and there. There's no money, and there's thing they are being shooting out. I think what they did last time is so unfortunate that our people are dying. Kenyans are dying. It's so painful. And the government is not taking anything. They're not taking any chances. They're not doing anything. I think that is so unfortunate with the national government. They need to take an action as much as they can, so that we can see our doctors are back to work. Many doctors are being employed. Our hospitals have equipment, have better laboratories, so that the common mwananchi should get good health or health care. I think the national government is doing a little bit. Affordable housing, going to court is just wasting a lot of time, wasting money, because it is already passed as a law, and then the president is determinant of making sure this policy, this law is working for him. So I want to say that it is so unfortunate. And we know the laws of Kenya, that case will go 10 years, 5 years, wasting public funds for nothing. I just say that it is already passed. Let the president move on. There are so many things that to look at. The doctors on the road. Our roads, people are dying in the accidents. We're seeing even students, we're seeing people losing their life all the time. These are the things that we need to push government to do. There's no good fertilizers. There's no much food. As much as there's rain coming, or there's been rain behind there, we need all these things to be worked on. So I think people should push the government to work on these things, because the housing, even if it is rejected, and it is too late to me, because I think it is already a law. It is not now just something that we want to think about. So housing, I don't want to talk about it much because it is a past. But last time, as I've said, we don't need it at the moment. We don't need it. It was just maybe creating some money, some ways of looting mwananchi money, which is okay. Let them do it. But there's so much crucial things the government should be acting upon. One of them is healthcare. Number 2 is food. Number 3 is transportation, that infrastructure. Number 3 is now education system is so bad. These are things that people should be working on. There's no employment. Unemployment is too much. The craziness things that are happening in the country. These are things that I think the government should be working on. And thank you so much, Penny, to see the sense now, because you supported this government, and now you're seeing that these people, they are not the people that should be the government today. So you have seen the light. And that's a good thing. Now, welcome on board. Let us push this government to make sure they work for our people. Thank you so much, Leo. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much. I also appreciate your contribution. Maybe I'll get some remarks from Pen. I would have really wanted this conversation to continue maybe longer. I think it's a few minutes to 3 a.m. It's raining where I am, so I'm worried. I don't want what happened before to happen. It's raining, so if I continue, I don't know I don't want to speculate. You know what happens whenever you are in Africa and it rains, the connection between the rain and the electricity and such kind of things. Penn experienced it when he came to Kenya, so I don't want a situation of what happened, a situation whereby all of a sudden we see darkness. So Penn, I just want to get your final remark on that.
Yes, Leo and the other gentleman, You guys are doing a wonderful job. Let us move forward like this and let us stay positive. I mean, it is depressing to see where the situation is in Kenya, but when you guys are in the forums like this from an international point of view, let us stay positive, but point out the weaknesses in the system so that we can make it even better. Personally, I do not necessarily see things from a negative point of view. I try to see things from a positive point of view, but when there are so many negatives going on in the ground, then we can point them out, not necessarily to put those people down, but so that we can move them up. And our trajectory is always and has always been moving the people up from down in the drudges that they are in. So that today, Leo Vile, I was supporting the system or the government of Ruto. I do not know whether I was blind or what, but I have seen the light. And it's always good to see what is wrong with either yourself or somebody else, but not necessarily put them down or put yourself down, but try to improve on what you have seen. So that when I've been to Kenya this time, Leo, I'm a little older now that I can see things very, very clearly. When it was a long time ago when Oginga Odinga was coming up and we were young, we were vibrant and we were seeing what we were seeing. Back then, Raila Odinga was not that prominent when he was trying to take away from his dad, and then he went to Rangata and he really resigned from the party he was in and won the election. Then we were vibrant and we were like, we want to see this. But now, at our older age, we want to see where we can lift our kids from, our grandkids, to put them in the right direction. But we cannot fight those wars that we're fighting in the 80s and 70s. We should now be able to give direction as to where we are going. And my friends, everywhere that I have gone and I've spoken in my mind, I find resistance from both ODM and UDA. And that's a good thing, because if you manage to piece off both of these groups, then you're doing something good. But if you manage to piece off one group and please another, then you're being a diehard in one way or the other. And I happen not to be that. Yes, I supported Ruto, but I can point out the stuff that is bad about Ruto. Yes, I didn't support Raila Odinga, and I should not be looking at what Oginga Odinga is doing and his group, because if you need put your energy there, why should you put your energy on negative vibes? So that I want to see a better Kenya. We personally want to see a better Kenya, but you guys have said, and that's exactly what we are fighting for, and that's exactly where we are going. And like I've said before, and I'll repeat again, let us look at life from a positive point of view, because there are so many people that are negative. And if we continue with that, we'll get up nowhere. Negative doesn't get you anywhere. Positive will get you somewhere. At least that's what I would believe. Thank you very much, Leo. And you know I will be back, coming back.
Thank you so much, Pen. I always appreciate when you are present here and learning from your counsel. It's really a great thing. Thank you so much, Hilary, for creating time to join this feed. And I always welcome you that whenever you are free and you get time and you are live, always join. And thank you so much, Goodyear. I think you are the Africa ambassador. Much appreciation to those people who managed to join this feed. I have to appreciate Zalendo. I have to appreciate Geoffrey Buru. I have to appreciate Kenyan Revolutionary. We had Boniface Kimanzi. I have to appreciate Costa. That is Mora. Karibu sana Mora, na usikose kutazama Afrika, and you are most welcomed. Geoffrey Ruto, I can't forget you, your contribution. Black, asante sana. I'm hoping to see you tomorrow. ujiunge nami kwenye studio. I really miss your contribution on matters affecting this country. That is Mr. Black himself, Geoffrey Ruto, and everybody who made it today. Much appreciation. I can see Ruth Apondi, I can see Judith Anyango, Caleb Ndolo, and associates, and everybody who managed to join this feed. From this end, I have to say thank you. Together, when we put our heads together, we are going to make this country a better country. It's time that as Kenyans that we've learned that these politicians that we people follow and take the instructions, we always help them to serve their interest. So as Kenyans, we need to ask ourselves before making any move or taking any action, are we serving our interest or we are serving the interest of the politician? So whenever we find that the interest we are going to serve is for the politician, then we should desist from helping politicians advance their self-interest. So if our interest is put forward, then I urge all Kenyans to march and ensure that their interest is served. For example, you saw the doctors demonstrating, it was their interest. But when you find yourself in a demonstration where your interest is not considered, then we need to think twice and allow everybody to take their personal responsibility. And when we do that, we are going to make Kenya a better country. And let us endeavor to leave this country better than we found it. And we should ensure that we don't destroy the future of the next generation. We know what has been happening. We had people who lived before us. They destroyed their time. And when they were living, they kept on destroying the future of the people who are going to inherit from them. So we should not do that. It is the right time that we can restore this country and ensure that the people who are going to live after us will get a country that they can be proud of and say that really we are Kenyans. We don't want to die, then later on the people who live after us will keep on blaming us that had our parents, had our grandparents did this would not have happened. They need to appreciate that the people who lived before us did something to ensure that our future is secured. So with those many remarks that we've made for the last 4 hours, I want to wish the ones who are sleeping a good night, if you're waking, a good morning, and if you are going through your daily activities, a good afternoon and a good day. See you next time, same place. I was your host Leo Nyabaya. I was joined by Hilary Ngondi, Pen Nyagaka, among others. Let us meet tomorrow, same time, same place. But don't forget to subscribe to Afrique 24-hour TV. That is the only way you can support this program. And maybe a special announcement. On Wednesday, we are going to have a special show. We are going to have a special interview with Wakili Kennedy Aboya. Kennedy Aboya works at the AU. So he will try to shed light and tell us the possibility of Raila Amolo Odinga becoming the AU Commission chairman. Don't miss that. Subscribe to Afrique